I'll be honest with you. Back in 1985, as a 14-year-old kid, I didn't care much. It was just another pop song. But, you know, listening to it through these adult ears of mine, I use the term adult loosely, of course, but I can understand why many thought that was a bit of a shock from Madonna back in 1985. Created a wee bit of a stir, didn't it? Song called Like a Virgin, which is the title track from the album of the same name that began this week in 1985, a 3-week run at number 1 on the U.S. album chart. Went to number 3 in the U.K., if you care about that sort of thing, but it became Madonna's first number 1 in the Billboard Hot 100, and it topped charts in Australia and Canada, reaching top 10 other parts of the world. And Like a Virgin, the album, has sold over 6 million copies worldwide. So we begin our show today with the title track. On this day, 41 years ago, Madonna's Like a Virgin begins a 3-week run at number 1 on the U.S. album chart. I have a feeling, it being Monday and all, that very album and conversation will come up with our good friend Brian Allison when he joins us for This Week in Music History just after the 11 a.m. news. It is a Monday morning, the 9th of February. Hope you had a great weekend. I really enjoyed seeing so many of you in St. Catharines on Saturday night. I took a little walk down from our broadcast location at the Meridian Center in St. Catharines to the St. Catharines Sports Hall of Fame. I think they've done such a great job with their arena there. And I always like to go check this stuff out when I'm in another town, and I had a few minutes to do that. And so many Rangers fans made the trip. So good on you. It was great to see so many of you. And on that note, a bunch of emails came in this weekend that I just wanted to share. Thanks first and foremost to Shelley and to Nancy and to Paul for doing the old turn down the volume on the TV, turn up the volume on the radio thing, and follow along with our broadcasts here on 570 News Radio. Shelley said, I just loved hearing Josh Piercy's headlines during the first intermission on Friday night, something I know Josh works hard on. So, Shelley, I'm sure he's happy to hear that from you. And Nancy says, I can't believe you had a listener from Antarctica, which is something else that we like to do on our broadcasts because, you know, the radio and the opportunity to stream it is portable. So we always shout out long-distance listeners. And we had a member of Rangers Nation on a cruise in Antarctica checking in. And Paul said thanks to the listener who called us last week and explained how he does that volume down on one, volume up on the other thing, and he figured out how to sync it thanks to that. So, hey, we are certainly happy to provide for you the very best that we can provide when it comes to Kitchener Rangers coverage, and it's always a way to do that. And thanks to you, more and more people are getting behind the idea. Helps out a ton. And we love having you along. We try to give you the very best show that we can each and every time the Rangers play, which is going to be a lot in the next little bit. We've got a home game versus London tomorrow. And then Piercy and I hit the road with the team later this week. We've got stops in Kingston, Ottawa, and Peterborough. And that's what makes this your home of Kitchener Rangers hockey, even when we are on the road. I don't know about you, but I feel this winter has changed us in some ways. Here's just an example of what this winter has done to us. And I don't know what it was like for you when you went out this morning and got into the car or made your trip to the transit stop, whatever the case may have been. But I was shocked at how cold it was over the weekend. I certainly adapted to it, I guess, or adapted our schedules to it. Rosie, the pandemic pup, and I went out for our walks, but we went out in shorter bursts on a couple of occasions. We usually take a nice long walk together, an hour or so, but we went out for 2 shorter 30-ish minute walks, maybe even a little less, because it was colder than charity out there on the weekend. And this morning was absolutely no different. So cold when I stepped out of the house today. And then it occurred to me that it's going to, quote unquote, warm up this week. So what this winter has done to us is transformed us in such a way that today's -8 sounds good. Oh, I can't wait till it's -2 later this week. Whoop-de-freaking-do. And I say freaking deliberately because one of my coworkers let me know that their child, I won't give any names away or ages to protect the innocent, but their child dropped their first F-bomb this weekend, getting into the car and saying, "It's so bleeping cold." How do you get mad at a kid for that? The kid's right. Oh, Nelly. That's how this winter has changed us. You know that the minute we begin the show every day, our phone lines are open to you. So let's start the conversation. It's always so much more interesting when it's two-way. Jersey Bill is with us early this morning. Good morning, Billy.
Hey, good morning. Hey, interesting Super Bowl last night.
Was it? Are you sure? Because honest to goodness, Billy, I wasn't interested in either of the teams. I can't even hate the New England Patriots anymore since Tom Brady retired. And I kept checking in once in a while, but I watched an episode of Friends and the original Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze more than I watched the Super Bowl last night.
Oh yeah, it was just the defense that showed up, the offense not so much, and I also thought that the halftime show was sort of that whole thing was sort of funny too. The more that somebody dislikes something, the more that it just draws attention to it.
For sure.
Yeah, and but one thing that really struck me about sports, and that is that the Olympics. And I like. First of all, I'll say I like the way that Canada does it. I think between the CBC and your station and the other sports station, I like the ways that you share it and show as much of the different sports as possible. But what really struck me is that when you think about and that horrible accident to Lindsey Vonn.
Oh my gosh, I know.
She had that accident, and that is if you or I were on top of an Olympic mountain. Right, I'm not a skier, so I'm not likely. But if somebody placed me there, and they told me the only way down, the only way for you to save yourself is to get down the mountain. All I would be interested in is doing it as safely as possible. but the whole idea of that sport is doing it, getting down the mountain a few hundredths of a second faster than the other guy.
Billy, if you ain't first, you're last, pal. Come on.
Yeah, and that's the whole. That's what's crazy about the sport, and even the motto, faster, stronger, higher. I mean, what is really being done is that it's forcing these athletes to take more and more risks to go after that gold, silver, and bronze. And there's a level of absurdity to it. It's not just that people only pay interest to the sports. The average person pays interest in sports only when the Olympics are on. It's just that the whole premise of the sport itself has a kind of craziness to it, and that's not the only one. I mean, you even think about the cross country skiing. I mean, people are I think even biathlon, right? They're being forced to go as fast as possible. If you actually were using those skills, say in combat, you probably wouldn't want to push yourself to the limit, because by the time you got to the point where you actually had to use your rifle, you'd be exhausted and you wouldn't be performing at your best. But that's the way these things are set up, and that's what keeps our interest up, I suppose. But there's a level of absurdity to it which can't be denied.
It is an interesting take. I will tell you that it's the reason I love it, quite frankly. The pursuit of absolute excellence, to be fractions of a second faster, to control one's breathing even while borderline exhausted, to accurately shoot a rifle. I'm here for it. I love that pursuit of excellence. I really do. And we'll be talking more about the Olympics just after the 10 o'clock news this morning. So less than an hour from now. Check in on where Canada's greatest medal hopes lie and more. Bill is also with us on the show early this Monday morning. Hey, Bill, good morning.
How you doing there, Mike?
I'm doing all right, thanks. How are you?
Force number 777.
Farwell's Force. I love hearing from a fellow member.
Got a challenge. This is binge week.
This is binge week? Binge the Olympics?
We're gonna have 4 binge weeks: February, March, April, May, June.
What are
in order to
binge weeks?
fill in the gap from the 300 plus to the 777.
Oh, I see. We were going to binge Farwell's Force memberships. I got you. Okay.
I got 2 challenges, one for every Force member. Preston, Paul, Kyle, Gary, Mary, Andre, Maureen, Donna, Jersey Bill. If everybody just had one person in their life, friend, relative, whatever, that they could convince to become a Force member, just phone in or email to you. And the other challenge is everybody that doesn't like talking on the radio at all, you have the email for Mike Farwell there in order to email him, and he'll give you a number. So,
Bill, I really appreciate it, and I love where you're coming from. You're doing the shameless solicitation for me, and I'll tell you, we added some more members late last week, and now we are sequentially. Bill chose 777, and I'm happy to let you have whatever number you want. Naturally, if there's a favorite number, a lucky number, a variation thereof, whatever the case may be. I've been trying to go in sequential order, starting at 00 George from Cambridge, all the way up to, let me see where we are now sequentially, because of those new names added last week. I do keep a list. I really do. I ask you to remember your number, and I write down the numbers as well. And we are now sequentially all the way up to 313. So the next number in sequential order of Farwell's Force will be number 314. That's the next sequential number. As Bill said, he's 777. And I just said a moment ago, if there's a favorite number that you want, you can have it. I was thinking, though, with those new members added late last week, that I don't think 500 is out of the realm of our possibility here, is it? We've got a few randoms in there that wanted certain numbers. 420's already been claimed. 666 has already been claimed. 777 is there, etc. But I think we can count from 00 right up to 500, can't we? Would that be too much of a stretch goal for this year to add another 150, 60 members to Farwell's Force, increase it by about 50% from where we are now at 313 members? All you have to do, all I ask of you in order to become an official member of Farwell's Force is to listen for 15 minutes. That's it. Every day, mind you, please and thank you, but 15 minutes a day, and you get to be an official member of Farwell's Force. We are a force for good, a force for change, a force to be reckoned with. And as Bill said, you can phone or you can send me an email, mike@570news.com, and we are more than happy to add to this growing force for good in our community, because that's what it's all about. I love you for bringing that up, Bill. We can get to 500 it's only the beginning of February. Okay, second week of February. In the next, 46 or so weeks, we can add another 160 or so members. The stretch goal is now 500 members of Farwell's Force by the end of the year. Bill put out the challenge. If everybody who's already a member convinces a friend or relative to join, well, there you go. And it's as simple as an email to mike@570news.com or by giving us a call, because our phone lines are always open to you.
1, 2, 3, 4. Can I have a little more? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I love you.
All right, we'll get to more calls in just a moment, but it is time for your Farwell Show 5 on this Monday morning. Number 1, Canada, already a medal winner today at the Milan Cortina Olympics. Freestyle skier Megan Oldham taking home bronze in women's slopestyle at Lavigno Snow Park on day 3 of the Winter Games. Later today, defending champion Canada plays its second women's hockey game of the Games against Czechia, and Canada will have 3 figure skating tandems lacing up today when the ice dance competition gets underway with the rhythm even. Number 2, the region found $15 million almost as quickly as they scheduled a special council meeting for last Friday afternoon. At that special meeting Friday, council approved a $15 million plan to buy a new water filtration system. The 3 temporary containers will help pull more water from the Grand River faster, while upgrades at the Mannheim Water Treatment Plant are underway. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, experts say the high-speed rail corridor set to connect Toronto to Quebec City with stops in other Ontario cities will need massive amounts of power from energy grids already under pressure. Ontario expects electricity demand to soar 75% by 2050 as the grid comes under increasing strain from artificial intelligence processing sites, electric vehicles, and population growth. It's estimated that the planned rail line could drain between 1% and 3% of Ontario and Quebec's current electrical capacity. Number 4, the southern Alberta town where 3 teenage hockey players were killed on their way to a practice last week, hosted a benefit game last night in their honor. It was a crowded game in Stavely, Alberta, between the Southern Alberta Mustangs and the Stavely Spurs alumni. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, 30-second commercials during yesterday's Super Bowl were going for as much as $10 million a pop. And the annual post-game ad breakdown ranked Google's spot for its Gemini artificial intelligence service as the best this year because it tugged at the heartstrings while also showing how the platform could be used to picture a newly bought home with fresh paint, a redecorated child's bedroom, and a cozy garden. Coinbase, meantime, earned a failing grade for using a Backstreet Boys song with karaoke-like lyrics, failing to show viewers what Coinbase does or why they might want to use it. Other ads that got passing grades for their Super Bowl efforts, Pepsi, Levi's, and Bosch. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Monday morning.
You go to the box, you feel shame.
The only place we're going is to a very quick commercial timeout. And then we come back with your morning wake-up call. A caller's on the line. We'll get right to them after this on the Monday morning edition of the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is that time of the show where we make time for the morning wake-up call. You can wake us up with your thoughts. Our phone lines are already busy. Jeff will start us off. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, little buddy. How are you?
Farwell's Force member number 19er. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
I like yourself, Mike, during the Super Bowl. I did the same thing, watching the Roadhouse and going back and watching the Roadhouse. I actually enjoyed watching the movie better.
Yeah, me too.
Yep. But I'm sorry, this is not rant or rave time, but I know I called in when the first gentleman called in about the football. And I just have one thing that we can maybe talk later on. But what I understand that us Canadian people didn't get a chance to watch some of those commercials that were out of the U.S. But what I don't understand, Mike, and I was very kind of put off from it, and that's what turned me off the watching the football was I love watching the pre-football, how they go through, they analyze everything. Well, then all of a sudden they had a guy come on, Mike. They had a guy come on, and they were talking about what's going on with the Olympics, and they were talking U.S. Olympics. Canadians were not involved in that.
Well, but Jeff, it's an American broadcast. What did you expect?
Yeah, I know. Mike, honest to God, I didn't understand. You notice I'm watching my mouth, and I'm being very polite, but I was really put out by it. I'm being serious. It kind of turned me off a bit. That's all I wanted to say. I know it's not rant or rage right now, but I just thought I'd send that out there. Have a good day, Mike.
Thanks, Jeff. You too. We rant or rave on Mondays between noon and 1. And I can understand the frustration if you are Canadian. But again, this was an American broadcast. It originated from the state of California in San Francisco. So, of course, those broadcasters are going to be talking about and focusing on the U.S. Olympics, the U.S. Olympic team, their athletes. You could, if you were flipping channels anyway, like I was during the game, then you could have flipped over to Canadian coverage and learned all about the Canadians. And if Americans were watching that, they might have been disappointed. But again, think of the country of origin for the broadcast, my friend. Doug, good morning. It's the wake-up call.
You never remember my number.
Oh, my gosh. No, I'm sorry.
212.
212. Thank you. I didn't have it off the top of my head. I'll remember it now. No, I won't.
That's all right, buddy. I apparently quite a few people must have been flipping back and forth with Roadhouse. because I was too. I wonder, Mike, if you know the true story behind the two main characters in that movie.
In Roadhouse?
Yeah.
No.
The Jimmy, the guy that he winds up doing the deed to at the end of the movie. They did not like each other at all. There was absolutely no love lost between them as the whole movie went along. I watched a documentary on Patrick Swayze, and it was quite interesting because they said by the end of the movie, they had quite a deep respect for each other, and there's two spots in that final fight scene that were not planned, and Patrick Swayze actually had, I believe, 2 broken ribs. By something that happened that wasn't supposed to happen. It was quite an interesting documentary, to tell you the truth. But anyway, I find it funny. You mentioned it. This guy mentioned it. And I've probably seen that movie 100 times, but I just love watching the whole story. And from the Red West, of course, was a friend of Elvis.
Yeah, well, and there you go. We were doing the same thing, even if we've seen the movie 100 times, or slightly fewer. It seemed like a better option than the Super Bore last night, at least from where I was sitting. And I did not know that about the inside information on the movie, that Patrick Swayze and the character he fought last were not friendly on the set. There you go. Mike is next with us on the Morning Wake Up Call. Morning, Mike.
Hey, good morning. How you doing, Mike?
Great.
It's been a minute.
It has been a minute. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. I don't call in very often, but I listen to you religiously every day when I'm traveling to my customers. Right now, I'm just on my way up to Beaton, Ontario, so I'm just enjoying the show so much. I want to become one of your Farwell Force members, and I think if 314 is available, I will take it, because when you add those numbers up, they add up to 8, which is the month that I was born.
Well, I mean, as much as I would love to give you 314, Mike, it's already been scooped. Where else can we get you?
How about 413 then?
413? Yes, you can have it. Just remind me the first letter of your last name.
G.
Mike, that's what I thought. Okay. Mikey G, you are 413, my friend.
Perfect. I found it. I watched a little bit of the game last night. Yeah, you're right. It wasn't very exciting, but the halftime show, I howled because I knew what the current administration in the U.S. was going to say about it. And I read some comments this morning on the internet, and he wasn't impressed. He couldn't understand the language. It didn't sit well with his idea of all America, blah blah blah. But I howled because I told my wife as soon as it started the halftime show, I said, this is not going to sit well with him at all. So I laughed.
Good stuff.
I laughed, and it just proved this morning that, you know, when I heard when my wife sent me that comment, it was like, oh my gosh, it's he's gonna rant and rave about that.
Of course he is. All right, Mike, I got to run to the news center. Get safe travels to Beaton, okay?
I will. Thanks. Have a great day.
Thanks, buddy. You too. It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. You may recall a conversation we had on the show last week with the Property Taxpayers Alliance. John Waylett, the founder of said alliance, was on the show with us talking about the motion coming to Cambridge Council to discuss the idea of getting a reimbursement for funds that Cambridge residents have paid into the construction and operation of light rail transit, but not received any of the benefits in return. And Councillor Helen Schwery in Cambridge thought this is something that we should ask for a reimbursement of, these funds that Cambridge residents have paid in. Ultimately, the vote at council failed, but by just a single vote. It was 5-4, the final vote. And when we had the conversation with the Property Taxpayers Alliance, we got a call towards the end of our segment from another councillor in Cambridge, Ward 6's Adam Cooper. And unfortunately, the clock, it's always the boss, and we didn't have time enough to speak with Councillor Cooper. He has graciously agreed to join us again this morning for a more fulsome conversation. Adam, good Monday morning.
Good morning to you, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
No, thanks very much for making the time and being gracious enough to accept the invitation after we had to cut it short last week when this came up. You were one of the people who voted in support of Councillor Schwery's motion to get this reimbursement on LRT funds. Why?
Yes. Basically because, this is not about support or opposition to the LRT itself. That's a whole other different issue, which I would be happy to talk about later. This is about fairness. This is about equity. It's about responsibility to those that we represent. Cambridge taxpayers have been contributing for a long time. We're talking about 15 years now. To this, the Ion LRT for years, without any service whatsoever and no distinct timeline at all. It feels like we're paying into something that doesn't seem to have an end. There's no set times, and there's a lot of benefits that have been reaped from the existing LRT across the region by various cities. But they have not been. They have basically. It hasn't been fair for all the cities. It has not been proportional to what the Cambridge has been paying. We have, one of the arguments that we've repeatedly come up with that, this is a regional plan. We heard this from another ex-councillor that you had on there, the regional councillor, Rob Deutschman. That is, we're part of a region, we benefit from that, and absolutely agree. Cambridge does have some indirect regional benefits from the system, from the growth assessments, the investments, but these benefits are not at all proportional to what we are paying, and they're nowhere near what Kitchener-Waterloo received, because we do get. We get the assessment growth. Some of it goes to the region, that gets spread around, but there's a lot of money that's gone through the assessment growth to the city of Kitchener, city of Waterloo. We haven't got any of that, but yet they're reaping those benefits on the backs of the taxpayer in Cambridge. So a lot of people are kind of having a bit of an issue with this, wondering how long does this go for? And also to that regional benefit argument, well, if this is a regional project, then why is it that the townships that benefit from this have not been paying into this? So we just want this to be revisited, to change this plan, see what's going on, see how we can have something much more fairer for the people of Cambridge. Because me as a councillor, I have a fiscal responsibility to the people of Cambridge, as do other councillors. So we need this to be looked at.
So let's say, for the sake of argument, Adam, that the vote had gone the other way, and it was 5-4 in support of Councillor Schwery's motion. Thus, you endorsed the idea of seeking this reimbursement. At the risk of sounding too flippant, so what? Like, there's no mechanism for one level of local government to reimburse another tax dollars. So then what?
You're absolutely correct. I mean, all this does is basically highlight, frankly, the unfairness of the system. We want some accountability. We want equity with this. I mean, just because, you're right. The region, they are responsible for transit. So when they make the decision that they are going to do what they do, it's going to be split three ways. But the Cambridge is not going to get its LRT for a long time. Just because they can do that doesn't mean they should. You're right. We don't have a mechanism to say, sorry, we are not going to pay, but we still need to bring attention to that. I mean, that is my duty. That's the duty of other councillors to say, this is not right. We need to go back and look at this deal. Because sorry, go ahead.
No, well, so you said a moment ago that this isn't whether you support LRT or not, but I wouldn't mind going down that path, because I would look at this, and it's not a bad thing, but my view of this would be that this is actually an anti-LRT motion then. Because again, without the mechanism to get this money back, all you're basically saying is we've been hard done by, and maybe we don't want your silly LRT. Is that what this is about?
Not necessarily. Like I said, that's a different argument. I mean, even if you support it, someone supports it, okay, we can say we're paying for what has been now 15 years. I'd be very surprised if anything come to us within another 10 years. So we've got maybe 25 years that we're going to be paying without that service. And at some point, even if you approve of it coming, eventually, if it comes, and it is not set in stone at all, at some point you say, well, what's that number? How many years do we pay into this where Kitchener and Waterloo and the townships benefit financially way more than we do off the back of our taxpayers, and say, well, this amount of years for doing this is wrong, because we don't have that at all. So even if you do support this, we still need to look at this and have a responsibility to our taxpayers and say, this is not a fair deal. This is simply not a fair deal. And we need to have, our relationship with the region, look, it depends on cooperation and trust. We're going to continue to paying while receiving no service, no set dates. Plans to have it coming. That's not dates. We don't know when any of this is coming, and we're going to keep paying and paying. And this can erode the relationship. But we need fairness. We need equity. That's all this is about.
How have the townships benefited more than Cambridge in this?
Well, we hear the argument again. We got Mr. Deutschman said this. We've heard it from others. That this is we get the assessment growth or the investment that benefits the region, and that gets spread out, and that's true. The townships are we are paying, Cambridge is paying, proportionately unfairly paying a larger amount. The townships are benefiting from the regional assessment growth, and they're not paying into it at all. So they didn't get service, we don't get service, but yet they get the same benefits we have, but they are not paying. So we just want some equity, we want some fairness in this. We need this to be looked at.
When then LRT Stage 2 does come to Cambridge, Adam, what then? Does Cambridge pay more back in because of what they've been reimbursed, or how do we balance and keep equity when Cambridge starts realizing all of those benefits from LRT?
Well, long-term investments are important. But we're already paying now. And we shouldn't accept this disparity now in the funding on the premise that there's going to be future benefits once it does get here. We were contributing to this, and we need to have a appropriate share of the benefits of it. And just because we'll eventually benefit from it, is not an excuse to ignore the responsibility we have to expose and correct what some people are seeing a shocking misuse of Cambridge taxpayer money.
Are you interested in championing Stage 2? Do you want to see light rail get its way into Cambridge?
I have to say, I'm what I've seen so far. I've very much for a while I was on the fence with this. I do oppose it right now. What I see of it, I have my reasons for that. Are we going into that? I
would love to.
Look, I've been lucky enough. I came from England, and when I was there, one of the surprises I had when I came here was how brutally inefficient our transit system is. You talk about, people want to have, walkable cities and, people not being in their cars. When you go to a place like England, I'm not sure about the rest of Europe, but I know in England you genuinely can get around without a car because their transit system is just incredible. And this is with a massive amount of buses. I've seen what can be done when you've got enough buses going into people's neighborhoods where they need them, as opposed to what we have here where you got, single buses that take 90 minutes to do what can be done in 15 minutes in a car. And I believe that I think a much smaller investment that would go to the LRT could go to mass transit and buses with flexible schedules, flexible routes that can grow with the city. Then they're not going to cost what an LRT would. And there's also the issue of this kind of what I call planned congestion, where a lot of people in Cambridge need to realize that if this LRT comes to fruition, it's going to be going down Hesper Road and they're going to take away 2 lanes of traffic. And what we've seen sometimes is that, this is going to create congestion. We know that. It's a fact. We see it in KW. We're going to see it in Cambridge. And sometimes you see that congestion being used as a justification for the system that's supposedly going to fix it. It's kind of like a false demand. But the problem is a lot of the way this LRT is going, it's going down Hesper Road. It isn't really going where a lot of people need it. It doesn't go into the neighborhoods. The vast majority of Cambridge would have to get buses or drive to get to the LRT. So I think it's a massive, massive investment in something I don't think is going to be that useful to the people here.
Adam, I appreciate the time on the show this morning. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much, Mike. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Adam Cooper is the Ward 6 councillor in Cambridge and at this point is opposed to LRT Stage 2. And further to the point of this conversation was one of those 4 councillors who voted in support of Helen Schwery's motion at Cambridge Council last week, seeking reimbursement for taxpayer funds already used to construct and operate LRT in Kitchener and Waterloo, where Cambridge residents do not realize the benefit for now. And Adam's not wrong. It is a long time between Stage 1 opening in 2019 and whenever the heck Stage 2 is going to open. I think we're talking 20 years, 2039-ish. I'm just ballparking, but we know it's still a long way off, right? There's still a lot of work to be done with upper levels of government to secure funding and then, of course, actually build the darn thing. So I understand the argument. I do. I received an email from another Adam, not this Adam, but a Cambridge resident over the weekend. I don't know if the segment replayed or this particular Adam who sent me an email had given it more thought and then decided he had to speak out. But Adam T. sends an email to Mike at 570news.com and said, I listened with interest the other day when you interviewed the Cambridge councillor who brought forward to Cambridge Council the idea of requesting a rebate for funds paid to the region for the ION, and that, of course, with the Property Taxpayers Alliance. But it was about that motion. So John Waylett from the Property Taxpayers Alliance was on. And then later the rebuttal from the former regional councillor, which, of course, was Rob Deutschman, and you heard Adam Cooper make reference to former councillor Deutschman as well. Adam goes on to say in his email, I was taken aback by how unprepared and poorly retorted the argument by the regional councillor was, saying, and I paraphrase here, we gave them $10 million and some new buses and a bus stop. They should be happy with that. Really? What about the train? And then proceeding into a no better than thou speech about how Cambridge Council should never have ever discussed such things. The sillies, really, this came off with arrogance, and I wasn't a fan of it. Again, I will just say, and Adam, I appreciate the email. Adam goes on to talk about, by the way, getting his tax bill and looking at which portion goes to the region and realizes it's more than 60%. And that's true for all of us. Just remember that. We spend so much time talking about budgets and tax increases at our municipal level, our regional level, et cetera. But some big ticket items are in that regional budget, right? The police budget, the Grand River Transit budget, water services, waste collection, et cetera. Some of the bigger ticket items are in there. And don't even get me started. Do not get me started on the salaries that are paid to our very large bureaucracies, in my humble opinion. But I understand where Adam T., who emails me, Mike at 570news.com, is coming from. The reality is, though, and let's just be clear about this, there was an additional $1 million per year granted to Cambridge for transit improvements for 10 years. So a total of $10 million as a bit of a buffer, a stopgap measure, because you're right, Cambridge, you're not getting trains yet, so we're going to do the best we can to increase transit service in the meantime at $1 million a year for 10 years. And truly, we could choose the language we use to describe the motion, but in all honesty, even if the motion at Cambridge Council had passed, it really is kind of meaningless. All it really becomes is a statement. It was kind of like when Waterloo passed a motion at one point, I'm pretty sure it was last year, and I was kind of frustrated by it because all the motion did was say, well, our local council will advocate to the federal government for a basic income supplement or a universal basic income or some such thing. And I'm like, look, even if there is a universal basic income, your checks are not going to come from City Hall. So why a municipal council is getting involved in this and perhaps giving the impression that they have any control whatsoever over the federal government's decision to introduce or not introduce a universal basic income. I just don't understand it. I think it becomes really a virtue signal. And in this case, I think the signal from Cambridge Council would be, we don't like what has gone on with the LRT process. I might even go so far as to say the motion really becomes an anti-LRT motion. That would be my perspective of it. Because, Again, you can pass it 5-4 instead of it losing 5-4, and then nothing happens. Well, we want our money back from the region. Okay, point made, but there is no mechanism to actually get that money back. So what's the point of the exercise? I think the point of the exercise is to draw attention to this perception of unfairness in Cambridge. Fair enough. And in my opinion, it would also mean we don't want your silly LRT anyway. That's my take from it. Yours is always welcome on the show. That's why we keep phone lines open on the Mike Farwell Show. And we'll get to your calls after this on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
The region, they are responsible for transit. So when they make the decision that they are going to do what they do, it's going to be split three ways, but the Cambridge is not going to get its LRT for a long time. Just because they can do that doesn't mean they should. We don't have a mechanism to say, sorry, we are not going to pay, but we still need to bring attention to that. I mean, that is my duty. That's the duty of other councillors to say, this is not right. We need to go back and look at this deal.
That is Cambridge Councillor for Ward 6, Adam Cooper, sharing with us his views on a motion that was defeated at Cambridge Council last week, but only narrowly defeated. And that was the motion from Ward 1 Councillor Helen Schwery to ask the region for a $60 million reimbursement of Cambridge taxpayer funds that have supported light rail transit, which has, without question, primarily benefited Kitchener and Waterloo. There's no doubt about that. What I would like to see is Cambridge embrace stage 2 of light rail and all of the similar development, the billions of dollars and the benefits that come with that. But they are entitled to this perception and this cry for a refund or a reimbursement because they feel a little hard done by. And I get where they're coming from. It is a long time between stage 1 and stage 2. Of that, there is no doubt. Of course, when stage 2 does come, other regional taxpayers will be involved in that. Or will they? And I think this is where the Cambridge argument might be the strongest, if I'm being honest with you. It has been said, because the cost of stage 2 is going to be 5 times greater than the cost of stage 1. But the cost of stage 2, we are expecting and or hoping to be borne entirely by upper levels of government, the province and the feds, which means locally, taxpayers we'll all share provincially and federally through our taxes paid into those governments, but locally, it won't be the same burden. That might be the strongest argument for Cambridge residents. We helped Kitchener and Waterloo get a 20-year head start on development and investment, and what did we get in return? We're still waiting, and waiting they are. So that, I think, is absolutely fair to keep in mind. And it's still a ways off before we get to stage 2 of light rail. Just let's remember that Cambridge will also benefit when stage 2 is there. Hespeler Road, we have heard, in the many billions of dollars is expected to reap benefits. And that won't be the only place where Cambridge sees the additional benefit of having rail instead of rapid bus. All right, I've got to get you to the 570 News Center for an update. Couple of things on the way in the next hour, including the second annual Grand River Classic. This is a group of post-secondary students who once again will fundraise for cancer research. We'll get to that just after 10:30 this morning. And after this update from the 570 News Center, where are Canada's best hopes for medals at these Olympic Games? We've got 2 already, including another one this morning. We'll talk about the games coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. So I wonder if the weekend in your household was anything like the weekend in the Farwell household. In between Kitchener Rangers games, of course, where I leave said household, all that we basically had on the TV was the Olympics. Olympic coverage from the moment we started sipping our morning coffee until the evening when we said, okay, it's finally time to call it a night. And, well, we'll get back at this tomorrow because it's still going to be on, right? We get our wall-to-wall Olympics coverage. And as you have been hearing this morning, right here on 570 News Radio, Canada has won its second medal at the Games already. Both of them are bronzes so far, but this latest one came in the freestyle ski slope, whatever the heck that is, which is something else I'm interested in learning from you in this conversation about the Olympics. But have you been binging the Olympics this weekend, and will you continue doing that for the next couple of weeks? And more to the point, how important is it to you that we as a nation succeed at the Olympics, that we win, and not just a couple of bronze medals, but lots and lots of medals? After all, as a nation with a climate like ours, we should excel at the Winter Games, should we not? And it wasn't that long ago that we had the Own the Podium campaign right here in Canada that made a vested interest or investment in our success at the Games. We also had Game Plan in the past as another such effort. Best ever 88 with, of course, those Calgary Games, etc. And I've always, if I'm being honest with you, I've always been kind of fond of the United States in this regard, because you can tell, it's been my experience anyway, watching sports in the United States, paying attention to how the United States does things when it comes to athletics, how incredibly important athletics are in the American culture. Really, there's so much about it. Think of high school football and how well attended it is, and NCAA scholarships, and you name it. They really see the pursuit of sport as something that is almost embedded in their culture. So yeah, we take an awful lot of pride during the games, right, to see our country succeed, and we want to be at a place where when we're adding up the final medals that Canada finds themselves near the top. So how important is it to you that we win lots of medals? And come on, for hockey, can we win the gold in men's hockey? I think women's is almost a foregone conclusion. I know the Americans are going to be tough, but I like our Canadian women's chances in all of this. Can our Canadian men win a gold medal again, like Sidney Crosby's golden goal back in 2010 during the Own the Podium effort? Would love to hear from you at 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Mike is with us. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Mike. On the weekend, it was a bit of a social occasion for us up here. One of the neighbors has this real giant big screen TV. Several of the neighbors brought pizza, wings, nachos, and stuff like that over, and we had a watch party, and it was a great social occasion. We were all watching it around this big screen TV, and I just enjoy watching the competition, Mike. If we get medals, great. If we don't, well, that's fine too. But I really like seeing these sports that you only see every 4 years, and I also like it up here in the wilderness up here in Point Clark, is that we get together with a bunch of neighbors, have a cold beverage, some wine, and we watch the games all together.
Are you anything like me, Mike, when you watch these sports that you otherwise would never even consider watching, and you look at it and say, I think I could do that. Like, come on, put me on a bobsled. I'll be fine.
Mike, I learned to ski when I was 3 years old, and I'm a pretty good adult skier right now in my elder years, but I realize that I will never be Steve Podborski or anything like that, or Ken Reed going down the downhill at 90 miles an hour. I'm more of a recreational winter sport guy. I like playing hockey out on the lake. I like snowshoeing. I like going around, enjoying the winter cross-country skiing and downhill skiing. And it's just like in the summer sports, you know, I like to play baseball and volleyball and stuff like that. It's just fun. You know what I mean?
I couldn't agree more. Okay, Mike, appreciate the call. Let's go next to Doug and hear from him. Doug, good morning. Farwell's Force member number 14, by the way. Hey, Doug.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
Not bad. Hey, I like watching the Olympics. Like you say, we watch things we don't normally watch. And you were just saying about how, as Canada and the snow and everything, we should be doing really good. I watched figure skating, of all things, and the one Japanese couple that they are figuring to win it all actually trained in Oakville, Ontario.
No kidding.
Yeah. So as far as the medals go, I just like seeing the different countries compete. If we get the medals, great. You know, as long as we're not dead last. And I think this would be a good year for Canadian hockey. It looks like we've got a pretty good team brewing here.
What do you think of Canada's men's chances in hockey?
I think we've got a pretty good team going.
Good stuff.
I think we're going to do really good.
Doug, appreciate hearing from you today. Those are the big ones, obviously, right? Hockey. Curling's been a bit of a disappointing start, pardon me, at least in mixed doubles, right? Didn't go so well I think our rink is playing again today and has not yet won. Anyway, you're not going to win everything. You're not going to get a gold every time. But one of the other things I realized this weekend in watching as much Olympics coverage as we watched is seeing these athletes on the podium and their expressions. And I mean, just imagine spending the time that you spend training, obviously, but then realizing at the end of it all that you are one of the top 3 in the world, even if at that moment, because you had a run that was fractions of a second better. But I get emotional, and I know I'm getting to a certain age, right, where the wrong commercial will get me emotional. Like that, Come On With Your Coming On, that Tim's commercial, the dad and his daughter, hits me right in the feels when I see it. But watching these athletes on the podiums with those massive, genuine smiles because they just got a gold, silver, or bronze, one of the top 3 in the world at their sport. That's incredible stuff. Mike, Farwell's Force member number 23, good morning.
Good morning. I'm enjoying the Olympic coverage as well. I love seeing other countries compete. I love the humility, the joy when they actually do really well. You were asking a question, should Canada get a big haul? I think that was your question, right?
Yeah, is it important to you that we win? We have the program designed to get these medals. Does it matter if we get them?
So there's a yes and no. The yes, as in, you're investing money and you're hoping for some kickback, but I think it has to stop at the entitlement. We ought to, we should. Why didn't we? That part is arrogant, and I'd rather see us compete like good Canadians, do the freaking best we can, and there's going to be disappointment and joys. I don't know. I think this is an event where humanity kind of comes together, at least it's supposed to, and we leave our politics at the door if we can, but still, it's still going to come up. But I like the competition between different countries and seeing other people actually win that I would never have expected and seeing their joy for the first time ever winning.
Mike, I think that's an excellent Canadian sentiment from you, and I appreciate the call. And you also identified, I didn't do a very good job, did I? How many different questions did I put out there? Did you watch the Olympics all weekend? Is it important to you how many medals we win? What about Team Canada, the men's hockey team? I think the women are in good standing already, but that's a lot of questions. Talk Radio 101 is to keep it simple and direct so that you know what the question is. But I do find from Mike's response, that is a uniquely, typically Canadian response, isn't it? Sure, meddling would be nice, but we're just there to show our absolute best. And the thing about it is, when we create these programs, right, like Own the Podium, like Best Ever, those sorts of things. We create those programs with intent. We are going to invest in the athletes so that they can get the very best training, right? Have the best opportunity to win. And then in exchange for that investment, we expect to see them go over there and do just that, win. And that's where I'll tie it back into America. Love it, lump it. And we can absolutely have differing viewpoints on that. But it seems to be really important to Americans to show well in athletics. And so the Olympics is an opportunity for them to do just that, remembering also that they are 10 times our size. But to Mike's point, when you watch the Olympics, and I'm sorry, I have a really difficult time with the judged events like the figure skating and the ice dancing, right? Because it's just far too subjective for my liking. Are you the fastest one down the hill? Yes. Did you score the most points in the competition? Yes. Those are much easier for me to understand and digest, not taking away from the talents of those figure skaters on the ice. And oh my gosh, how much do I love speed skating? Just watching speed skating, absolutely incredible. But to Mike's point, whomever it is that ends up on that podium, you just recognize that they have just fulfilled likely a lifelong dream. And remember how young some of them are. So for how many years have they already been training to get to the point where they are among the best in the world, and then they achieve it? Of course, the flippant side of me would say, yeah, well, now what, right? You're 22 years old. You made it to your first games. You won a medal. Where do you go from here? I guess maybe more medals. Hello, Summer McIntosh, if we look at the summer games. Anyway, it was a full weekend binging Olympic Games on the television at the Farwell household. And yes, on more than one occasion, I did look at a particular sport and said, I could do that, or at least I want to try that. Like, put me on a luge, please. I will give it my very best and scream down that little ice tunnel and see how fast I can get to the end of it all. Oh, I know how dangerous it is, but put me in, coach. I'm ready to play. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is a Monday here on the program, which means several things that consistently happen every Monday. About 40 minutes from now, just after the 11 a.m. news, it'll be This Week in Music History with our good friend and musicologist Brian Allison. I know how much you enjoy that because you tell me that you do, and I appreciate you for that. I appreciate Brian for joining us every Monday morning after the 11 a.m. news for a look back at This Week in Music History. Also, just over an hour from now, after the 11:30 news, David Drewe joins us with Drewe's Views, and we always have a good time talking about the interesting things going on in the political world because David comes from deep experience, having been a former Conservative Party staffer with our former MP for Kitchener-Conestoga right here in the region. So David Drewe joins us for Drewe's Views every Monday morning at 11:30. And then, of course, from noon until 1, we've got open phone lines for your Talkback Hour, which on Mondays is rant and or rave in keeping with tradition here on the show. We've been doing that hour of programming for as long as I can remember, and I'm not about to stop it anytime soon. So ranting and or raving between noon and 1 on the show today. If you've got anything pent up, hang on and wait for your opportunity between noon and 1 to do that. Looking ahead this week, a couple of things housekeeping-wise. On Friday, I'm going to be on the road with the Kitchener Rangers, but don't worry, I'm going to do the show remote. So you'll get the show usually based in Kitchener, based out of Kingston on Friday morning, but we'll have the same show. And that means an all-request Friday. As always, we play a little bit of one of your favorite songs or a song that you request. And of course, Friday being the 13th of February is one day before the 14th. And you know what February the 14th is, don't you? Don't make me remind you, it's Valentine's Day. So we're going to do love songs on Friday for All Request Friday. But before you send that email to Mike at 570news.com or call to make your request, I'm putting a catch on it. Because you see, it is Black History Month. And we celebrated that with our All Request Friday last Friday. And I loved the selections that we had. So why don't we keep it going? After all, it's not Black History Week, it's Black History Month. So your love songs this week from Black artists. There's your catch. So it's like a double theme this week. Love songs on All Request Friday. Love songs by Black artists as we celebrate Black History Month. Okay? There's your assignment. Again, you can email me, mike@570news.com with your request, or just give us a call, and Jen is more than happy to make a note of what song you would like to hear on All Request Friday. The Love Songs edition by Black artists. Something I like to do for you every day on the show is remind you that not everybody is a jackwagon. Look, when we get to rant or rave later today, we'll probably share a story or four about the jackwagons that we have recently encountered. You know, those people that don't clean off the windshields of their cars properly before they go driving in the winter weather, or who drive aggressively and cut you off without using their signals, or who forget to turn their lights on. But not everybody is a jackwagon. And so today, we get a reminder that with every interaction we have an opportunity for kindness. Kyle Thurkoff is a UPS delivery driver in New Jersey. And one of his recent stops was at a home where he dropped off boxes and boxes at the front door. So Kyle gets curious and he asks the homeowner, "What's with all these boxes?" That homeowner was Damian Lewis, and the boxes were full of books he had just written called Call Me First, A Man's Blueprint to True Leadership at Home. So after seeing all the boxes that Thurkoff had to deliver, Lewis offered him a copy of the book as a thank you. I mean, it's his job, the UPS driver, to drop him off, but hey, you dropped off a lot of boxes. Here's a copy of my book as a thank you. Thurkoff, the driver, accepts it. And that's when things get really interesting. Thurkoff read the book, and a few days later, he returned to Damian Lewis's home, even though he didn't have a delivery to do there. He just wanted to tell Mr. Lewis how much he enjoyed the book.
We provide a close, meaningful relationship with every one of them with respect and kindness and gratitude. And that's exactly the kind of service that I hope to provide when I'm at work.
So the entire exchange, like think about that. That's the kind of service you hope to provide when you're at work as a UPS delivery driver, right? Show the meaning behind the job. So when Kyle Thurkoff makes this return visit, even though he didn't have a delivery to do there, the entire thing is caught on Damian Lewis's doorbell camera because, you know, everybody's got a doorbell camera these days, a Ring something, or I don't have these nonsensical things at home, I'll tell you. Anyway, that gets posted on social media, generating more than 33 million views. And wait a minute, there's more. It also led to 9,000 sales of Lewis's book.
For him not to have a delivery for me that day when he came back to tell me how good the book was and to ask me where to get it, it was like I felt like I made it at that point. I almost feel like I don't deserve it. But I'm so welcoming for everything that has happened. Well, I'm just blown away by it. I just don't even know how to put it into words. Everything that it has done for us.
The book is called Call Me First, A Man's Blueprint to True Leadership at Home. And a reminder for us today that kindness costs you nothing, and not everybody is a jackwagon. If you know somebody who is not a jackwagon, we are always looking for their stories to share on the show. Drop me an email anytime, mike@570news.com, and maybe the jackwagon that you do not know, because they're not a jackwagon, will show up in one of our stories in the days ahead. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. The studio is full of not only guests, but youthful enthusiasm. Because, with me, you don't get anything youthful, sometimes enthusiastic, but certainly not youthful. Some students from Wilfrid Laurier University joined me in studio this morning. Luke Weston, a fourth-year poli-sci student. Luke, good morning to you.
Good morning. Tyler
Raston is here as well. He's fourth year in business. Good morning, Tyler.
Good morning.
And a classmate, I suppose. Well, you have some of the same classes, Kate?
Yes.
Same program.
Yeah.
Kate Crawshaw, fourth-year business student as well. Nice to see you. Good morning.
Yes, nice to see you. Good morning.
So, Luke, let me start with you. We're here to talk about the Grand River Classic. What is it?
So basically what the Grand River Classic is essentially we're raising money for pediatric oncology clinical trials. And basically we have a bunch of events. Tyler is the founder of this, so he'll be able to give you background on why we started and how we're trying to help the community. So I'll pass it over to Tyler.
I love it. Let's hear it. How did this all get started?
Yeah, I know. It's great. It kind of was inspired a bit by a program they run in Kingston called the Cure Cancer Classic. They do a ton of really cool events there, raise a ton of money for cancer research. And I was sitting, my uncle at the time, like him and I were really close. He was dealing with cancer. And I showed him, he's like, why don't you start that at Laurier? And I was like, I don't really know if we can. He's told me, just do it. So I called Katie, one of my best friends, and I was like, do you want to start this with me? And she said, yeah. We got a group together, and we called it the Grand River Classic. Perfect, because the Grand River runs right through Waterloo and like our whole area. And we got a group together, and we started the Grand River Classic, and we ran. Our first year was last year. We were really fortunate to raise just around over $25,000 to go to cancer research and support pediatric oncology. And then it's kind of just blown up from there. And this is our second year, and it's really growing, and we're really happy to see where it's gone so far.
That's amazing. Now, Kate, I wondered how you got dragged into this, but it sounds like Tyler knew what he was doing because he needs a force like you to make sure this all stays on track, right?
Yeah. I help Tyler stay organized, so yeah.
So what's it like starting something like this from scratch? Last year being the first year, Tyler's got this great idea and a personal connection. You recruit Luke and you.
Yeah.
What's it like getting this thing off the ground?
Yeah, I would say we were a little bit nervous to start.
Sure.
We didn't really know where to start. And of course, we encountered many issues last year. But we've really learned from all of them, and we were able to become successful last year. So we're excited to see where this year will take us.
So define successful last year. How did it go?
I think it went really well. And Tyler and I both grew up playing hockey, so it was a good way to bring sort of two communities together, like one fundraising for a good cause, and then one is our hockey community. We thought it was a great way to bring people together. So I think that's how we define success, is seeing that passion come out through our game.
How much were you able to raise last year, Tyler?
Last year, we raised $25,000.
That's incredible. Did you have an idea in mind when you started what you were hoping to reach?
I think our original goal, we were like, first time kind of proof of concept, we'll say $10,000. And then we blew that out of the water, and it was incredible. We were really happy. And it was like my personal, one of my biggest accomplishments. And I'm really proud of what we've been able to do.
So, Luke, what was your connection getting roped into all of this?
So essentially, I met Tyler. And I'm a part of another club called Rotary, and basically I thought it would be a good idea to introduce Grand River Classic to them. Originally my thinking was, Rotary has kind of big pockets, so
not a bad idea.
We could get some donations from there. And then I brought Tyler to a Rotary meeting, and essentially we met John, and it was all up from there, just meeting with all sorts of different people.
John Thompson is a force in this community, both in sports and in charitable endeavors like the work he does through Rotary. So, Tyler, did you know, as soon as you finished and made $25,000 last year that, okay, we're on to something good enough that this needs to be done again?
Yeah, our goal was kind of to turn it into a continuous thing that sticks around long after we graduate. So our whole plan was last year, was it like kind of like I mentioned, proof of concept. This year, we had a real emphasis on kind of finding who we want to take over next, who is going to keep it going once we graduate. And I think we've built a really strong team, a mix of all 4 years of students at Laurier, which is great. And we're really confident that it's going to continue to grow. This year, our goal is to raise about $100,000 all to go towards a clinical trial out of Sick Kids Hospital, raising money for pediatric oncology and curing cancer.
That's fantastic. So the idea would be, here's the blueprint, and you leave it for your successors at Wilfrid Laurier University.
Absolutely. And there's a group of us, kind of like our founding group, that's going to kind of stay on, help it, be advisors, make sure that any questions they have, we're here to help out in any way possible.
Kate, when it came to the logistics last year, like, what does this look like, and how many different areas did you have to reach out to make sure this thing worked?
Yeah, we have about 10 teams within the Grand River Classic organization. So they focus on various things like marketing and sales and all of those things. So we have a very talented team. This year, we're very fortunate that we have kind of offloaded some of the work to these group members. So yeah.
That's something I've got to learn a little bit about, John. I do this Farwell for hire thing, and I mean, I've got a team of one beside me, and the two of us try to pull this thing off every year. I need to figure out some of this delegation. Okay, Luke, what can you tell us about this year's Grand River Classic? How can people get involved?
So this year's Grand River Classic, we've set up a donation link with Cure Cancer Society. You could donate online if you want. You also get a tax receipt and all the benefits, as well as our big events coming up. We have a game against our Lazardus business team versus Western Ivy. So we got a bit of a rivalry going on there. I heard you're not the biggest fan of Ivy.
I am not. I'm sorry to say. I'm purple and gold all the way.
You know it. So, I mean, recently they actually played at the Cure Cancer Cup in Queens. So he actually played in the game, so I'll pass it on to him for...
Yeah, we have a bit of a rivalry going against Ivy. We played, we lost to them by 1 in overtime in the semifinals of this tournament that we go to in Kingston every year. I play for our Laz team. So we lost to them in the semis last year, beat them in a shootout this year, and they kind of texted me. They're like, hey, let's turn this into a rivalry series. So Saturday, February 28th, we have a big rivalry game against Western Ivy. Tickets are going to be releasing on Wednesday. We would love for the community to come show out. Love for Laurier students, pack the barn, make that a whole event. And then all leading up to our flagship event, which is Lazardus School of Business and Economics against Laurier Arts and Sciences students. And we play on Friday, March 27th this year. It's going to be a great game. Last year, Arts and Sciences did win. We did take the loss this year. We're hoping to bounce back, and it's going to be a great game, great event. Last year, we had about 1,500 people come out. This year, we want to blow that out of the water and just really continue to grow everything that we're doing.
So does that mean, Tyler, that you and Kate end up on one team and Luke is on the other? It sounds like it to me, if I remember my curriculum well enough at school, yeah?
There's a bit of a rivalry when Luke and I live together. So when we're hanging out, there's a bit of a rivalry between the two of us, but it's all fun and games. The teams love it. The students love it. We got faculty involved last year too as coaches, ceremonial puck drop, just getting them to come watch as well. So it's really fun. We had the entire community involved, and we'd love for it to even expand to the Kitchener-Waterloo community of everyone who lives in the area coming out and turning it into something really fun that a lot of people love.
Luke, I hope you have been chirping him all year. I mean, come on, you got bragging rights.
Don't worry. Every time the game is mentioned, every speaking event we go to, he always has to mention how the arts and science team won.
Perfect.
And I just look at him and smile each time.
He makes sure beforehand, he's like, don't forget to mention the score last year.
Okay, so Kate, we have the marquee event where business takes on arts and sciences. And how then is how does the fundraising happen between now and that big event?
Yeah, so our donor link with Canadian Cancer Society will be open starting shortly. I believe.
So it is open. We just put it up on the website.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Awesome. So people can get involved through that. And then I think at the game, there are donating opportunities as well for people who attend. So
perfect. And then is like probably a nominal admission charge to get into the game. That's part of the fundraising?
Yeah. So student tickets are $10. And then we have community tickets for anyone who wants to come. Everyone's welcome. Those are $15. All proceeds, so after we cover our costs, 100% of proceeds go directly to the Canadian Cancer Society. And then we have tons of opportunities like raffles, we have donation links, everybody fundraises, and it's a lot of fun. It's just a great time. A lot of people come out and have a good day.
Are they co-ed games?
So we do have women's teams.
Okay.
It's the men's teams do play each other in the big game there, but we do have women's teams. The women's Laz team actually won the Cure Cancer Classic tournament this year. They did great. They had a crazy run on Saturday to take the championship, and it's awesome. We have full reach to all of Laurier students, we really love that.
Kate, what was your introduction to hockey?
I've been playing since I was 4 years old, so
Really?
I played competitively all growing up. Yeah,
Nice.
that's why I'm so connected to.
Absolutely.
the
How'd you
sport.
get started in the game?
In the game? My dad played.
Yeah.
And so he coached me growing up. And I think as soon as I could start walking, he wanted me to start skating as well.
Okay, I was boldly saying earlier this morning that I think Canada's women's team at the Olympics is, not a lock. I know Team USA is pretty good, but come on, we've got a good shot at the gold, right?
Yeah, I'd say we have a good roster this year.
I would think
And
so, too.
My hopes are high.
Are you going to play for them someday?
It's a little bit late for that, but I would have loved to.
Absolutely. Okay, Tyler, where can we, when is the big game and how can we get involved in it?
Yeah, so everything, donation link, tickets, all goes through our website. That's grandriverclassic.ca. And you guys can follow along as well. We have an Instagram where we post absolutely everything. That's at Grand River Classic on Instagram. Tickets for the Ivy game are going to be releasing on Wednesday. And then right as we come back from reading week towards the end of February, we're going to be opening tickets for the big marquee game, Laurier versus Laz against Arts and Sciences. So we're really excited for that.
And I should mention, as much as I will, pick on Ivy, good on them for reaching out with that text, right? The good kids getting involved here for a good cause, and I'm fully supportive of that all around. Luke, how much pressure this year? You got to defend the title, buddy.
I think, honestly, they have a good roster this year. I will say that. But at the end of the day, I think we have heart. We have heart, and I think that's all you need to bring home that chip.
As a fellow arts grad, I'm with you. We got heart. And so, wait, now you say they have got a good roster this year. They're not pulling in ringers or anything, are they?
I don't know, honestly.
Tyler?
No, there's no ringers. We had fair tryouts for each team. We had a ton of students want to get involved. So we did run tryouts for each of the teams. The teams are really good. The rosters are great. Lots of ex-junior players. So it's a high level of hockey, but I don't know. I'm a little confident this year. I am a little confident. I need to get even the series against Luke.
I understand. I can't imagine what the last year's been like for you.
It's been brutal.
I love this. I think it's fantastic what you're doing. $25,000 in your first year is unreal. So let's get to that $100,000 this year. Way to go, and thanks for doing this, and thanks for joining me on the show today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us, honestly.
It is the Grand River Classic. I encourage you to go to grandriverclassic.ca. Let's help these young folks get to that $100,000 goal. Again, the grandriverclassic.ca. Joining me in studio, Kate Crawshaw, Luke Weston, and Tyler Raston from Wilfrid Laurier University. Thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I'm such a dummy. I just had these great, inspiring students from Wilfrid Laurier University in studio with me. Tyler Raston, the founder of the Grand River Classic, Luke Weston and Kate Crawshaw, all involved in the second annual Grand River Classic, raising money for cancer research. Last year they made $25,000. This year they're hoping to go over $100,000. All of the details and how you can take part, get to the marquee game against Ivy from Western. That'd be great. The marquee game is the Lazaridis Business School versus Arts and Sciences. That's right. So little intramural, if you will, competition. But details at grandriverclassic.ca. Really inspiring effort from these young folks. And I feel like such a dummy because they brought me a bag of treats, butter tarts, straight from Vincenzo's. Like, do these kids know what's what or what? And Tyler even told me as he handed the bag over, he said, I would rather throw them away than eat them with raisins. So I've got raisin-free butter tarts for days in here. So thank you to Tyler Raston, Luke Weston, and Kate Crawshaw for doing what they're doing for cancer research and getting involved at such a young age. I just absolutely love to see it. And yes, thank you also for feeding my fat belly with those delicious raisin-free butter tarts. All right, you know what that sound means. That sound means it's time for another Farwell Report. All the news you didn't know you could use. Have you been to Elements Casino in Elora lately? I know you have. I know you have because the provincial government just made its quarterly payment to Centre Wellington. The township received almost $630,000, bringing it to more than $2 million this fiscal year. Since the casino opened back in 2003, Centre Wellington has received $47 million in revenue. It is one of the hottest shows on TV, and a lot of it is being shot in Guelph. Have you watched any of Heated Rivalry yet? A 6-episode series about a gay relationship in hockey, and it's using the Sleeman Centre for all of its on-ice and locker room scenes. And now that locations have leaked onto the internet, fans of the show are flocking to Guelph to get a selfie at the Sleeman Centre. Parts of the show also filmed in Hamilton, Toronto, Ottawa, and a cottage in Muskoka. 2 of Heated Rivalry's episodes are ranked among the top 15 TV episodes of all time on IMDb. But don't you love it? Fans figure out where these locations are, and then they have to go there and get selfies in front of the Sleeman Centre. It's an old Sleeman selfie for you. All right, you can forget the expensive pre-workout supplements, okay? You can forget the fancy equipment. You can forget the elaborate training regimens. New research points to a performance booster that costs absolutely nothing. If you want to boost your performance, just cuss. Cuss like a sailor. Scientists have found that repeating a curse word during short, intense physical effort can measurably help people hold on just a little bit longer. The authors propose that swearing triggers state disinhibition, temporarily quieting the brain's caution system and allowing people to push closer to their true physical limits. So you want to get out just that one more rep, just curse, let it out, and you'll get that extra rep in there. And I don't know if you heard me earlier today, but one of my coworkers shared with me that her 9-year-old dropped her first F-bomb this weekend. Why? Because the weather was apparently so bleeping cold. I mean, I don't know how you blame a kid for that. I would have had my mouth washed out with soap as a kid, but can you really wash out a mouth with soap when you're talking about weather like this? As far as I'm concerned, the kid is spot on. Anyway, if you want a little boost in your athletic ability, just make sure you curse as you are finishing the exercise. And finally, you can move over, Mike Holmes. Researchers in Austria have the first documented evidence of a cow using a tool. In this case, it's a stick or a brush so the cow can scratch itself. I mean, if scratching yourself was an Olympic sport. Anyway, the internet has pointed out that the study reminds them of a Far Side comic drawn by Gary Larson back in 1982. That comic, entitled Cow Tools, features a cow posing with bizarre and useless objects. The absurd comic has been a source of online fascination in recent years, and now all of a sudden we have researchers from Austria who show a cow using a tool. Now, I know that you think this is utterly ridiculous, but I don't want any beef with you, okay? The stakes, they're really high on a show like this, and I think I've milked this story long enough for one day. Besides, it's past your time for listening to nonsense like this, and that is your daily Farwell. It's your every once in a while Farwell report. I haven't quite worked it into the show daily yet, but I keep these things on hand just to make sure that you are getting the full picture when you join our show. You get great information and updates from the 570 News Center throughout the show every day and all news mornings leading into this show. Then we bring on guests to dive into issues in greater detail and have some interesting conversations with them, I would hope. And I think there are other things out there that we all need to know about, including the performance-boosting nature of swearing and the fact that cows are now using tools. Well, I mean, what would we do without research like that from Austria? I'll let you ponder that for the rest of this day. Right now, I have to get you to the 570 News Center for an update. And then Monday mornings, 11 a.m., This Week in Music History is next on The Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. what lyrics were coming before they even started, didn't you? It's one of those songs with a signature sound that you knew immediately was Bon Jovi's Livin' on a Prayer. But why did we play that to start this week in music history? Well, you'll just have to wait to find out, won't you? Because we always play a song to start this segment that has some connection to what we'll be talking about. Our good friend and musicologist Brian Allison joins us every Monday morning for This Week in Music History. So we'll get to that Bon Jovi story. And don't forget, Brian operates a Facebook page of the same name. This Week in Music History, you can get these tidbits and so much more, sharing Brian's love of music with you. Mr. Allison, good morning.
Hi, Mike.
Speaking of starting songs, I started the show today with Madonna's Like a Virgin. Why did I do that, Brian Allison?
Because it's awesome.
One of many reasons, I think, yes.
Could be. Listen, yeah, I mean, it feels like it's been forever since that song was a chart topper. 1985, so it was, this day, February 9th, 1985, that Madonna started a 3-week run on the number one spot on the U.S. album chart with Like a Virgin. Also hit number 3 in the UK. It was a number 1 hit in Austria, in Canada. It did very, very well. And it was kind of the song that really brought Madonna to the media forefront. I mean, she had a couple of singles before that. Holiday was a big hit for her, but this was the one that kind of took it to the next thing, and I think maybe it was just a very much a product of the 1980s. Some trivia about that song. Madonna didn't write Like a Virgin. It was actually written by Billy Steinberg and Tom Kelly. These are the same duo that wrote hits like True Colors, which was a hit for Cyndi Lauper, of course, Eternal Flame, which the Bangles took to number 1 as well. So, it was a songwriting team that had presented this to Madonna. Nile Rodgers, who was Madonna's producer at the time, was not impressed with the song. When they presented it and said, this is going to be a good hit for Madonna, he was kind of like very skeptical and said, I don't think this is going to fly. Like, people aren't ready for, a woman singing about virginity and that sort of thing. It was, kind of tongue-in-cheek at the time. But Madonna insisted. Madonna was the one that said, nope, I think this is a good song for me. And as it turned out, she was right on the money. It did very well.
Yeah, shocker that Madonna was right on the money. I mean, this woman has always known sort of what works, and she's such a strong presence in music.
She's always been very, very good at presenting herself, at marketing herself, and at finding those, sort of market niches in popular music that, are going to be hits and that people are going to like. So all credit to Madonna.
It's funny you talk about Nile Rodgers as her producer's response to it, or the idea that this isn't going to fly. Look, I was a 14-year-old kid, so what the hell would I have known back in 1985? But just listening back to it this morning as I prepared it to play on the show, I thought, I mean, that's a lot for 1985. I can see why people were raising eyebrows and being critical of it.
Well, and then you have to add into it things like the music video because, by the mid-'80s, we were, as music fans, we were really listening with our eyes, right? We were looking at music videos, and that was something that sold a lot of music as well. And then, of course, there was that famous performance of Like a Virgin on the American Music Awards where Madonna's sort of writhing around on the stage and grabbing herself, and that sort of was another piece that, people were kind of like, ooh, okay, she's not fooling around here. This
Absolutely
is for real.
not.
So it was Madonna at her very finest, for sure.
All right, let's go back to This Week in 1971, Brian, because this album is always going to come up in the conversation as some of the most iconic ever.
Tapestry.
Yes.
So Carole King released Tapestry on February 10th, 1971. Yeah, Mike's birth year.
That's right.
So going way back. I mean, what can you say about Tapestry? This was Carole King's sophomore album, and it had some amazing hits on it. You've got I Feel the Earth Move. You've got It's Too Late, and then several other songs which she had actually composed, but other artists had hit with. So you've got You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman, which was a big hit for Aretha Franklin, and it just took off and did extremely well. It spent 15 consecutive weeks at number 1 on the Billboard 200, which is really, really impressive. And then it stayed on the charts for 6 years in the top 200. So that's when you know you've got some staying power. When you can make an album that's on the charts and stays on the charts in the top 200 for 6 years, you've done very well for yourself. And Carole King would go on and win 4 Grammy Awards for that album, including Album of the Year. She was the first female artist to win Record of the Year and Song of the Year in the same year. And, I mean, what can you say? In the decades since that record has been released, it has sold 30 million copies worldwide, making it one of the best-selling albums of all time. And some people don't know Carole King's backstory. It is impressive. I mean, prior to her success as a solo artist, she was already very successful as a songwriter with her then husband, Jerry Goffin. They wrote songs like Will You Love Me Tomorrow, that the Shirelles took to number 1, The Locomotion, which little Eva took to number 1, both songs that Carole wrote with her husband, Jerry Goffin. So she had 2 number 1 hits before she was even 21 years old. That's pretty impressive.
Certainly is. Okay, from my birth year in 1971, I think it was yours in 1970, right? And Black Sabbath makes news this week in music history.
Oh, man. What better release of an album could there be than the original Black Sabbath debut? Incredible. So, yeah, February 13th, 1970, just a few weeks before I was even born, but Black Sabbath released their self-titled debut in the UK. And it was released on Friday the 13th, which I think was probably intentional. It was recorded I find this amazing, that it was recorded in a single 12-hour session in 1969. And just an iconic record. I mean, this is really the birth certificate of heavy metal. You know, when this came out, the UK had already had Led Zeppelin, but this sort of took things to a different level. This was really sort of like, doom metal, dark, gloomy music with this kind of horror soundtrack to it. And, it'd be released in the U.S. in June 1970. It would achieve platinum certification. An incredible record. Some trivia on that. That main riff in the song Black Sabbath, the first track on the album Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath, it uses something called a tritone. And the tritone, this chord progression of minor chords, was often called, quote-unquote, the devil's interval, because it was a chord progression which was banned in the Middle Ages due to its supposed ability to signal evil spirits. So church-going people, they didn't want to hear that minor chord progression at all in music because they thought it would draw the devil. I think Black Sabbath knew that.
I think they did too, just like releasing it on Friday the 13th, for sure. And wouldn't you know, Friday the 13th, 2026 coming up in 4 days. There you go.
I think I'm going to spin Black Sabbath's debut on Friday for sure.
Excellent idea. On a sad note, this week in 1990, we lost Del Shannon.
Oh, what a tragic loss this was. So, I mean, Del Shannon had a number 1 single both in the UK and the US in Runaway. That was 1961, probably the single that Del Shannon is remembered best for. But he had 9 U.S. and 12 other UK top 40 singles. So Del Shannon was a very prolific songwriter in his day. And in 1963, he became the first American to record a cover version of a song by the Beatles. His version of From Me to You, which was one of the Beatles' early songs, charted in the U.S. before the Beatles version did. So, he was covering other artists as well. Inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1999. But, he was suffering from depression in 1990, and he died by a self-inflicted gunshot wound, which was quite sad. Some trivia. Just prior to his tragic death, Del had been working with several major recording artists and was rumored to be joining a very popular supergroup. So take yourself back to 1990, Mike, and think what supergroup that might be.
Yeah, the first one that comes to mind is Traveling Wilburys.
That's it. You hit it. Yeah, so, I mean, of course, they had lost Roy Orbison, who had passed away, and they were looking to replace him and continue the Wilburys. And Tom Petty and Del Shannon have a little bit of a history. There was kind of a rift between them because when the original Heartbreaker bass player for the Heartbreakers left the band, Tom Petty was trying to recruit Del Shannon's bass player. And that actually happened. He left Del Shannon's band, Howie, and went to join the Heartbreakers. And Del was not happy about that. He begged Tom, said to him, please don't take my bass player. And Tom said, you know what? I'm taking him anyways. But Tom was trying to make it up to him. They were friends. I mean, Del Shannon was an idol of Tom Petty, and he really wanted him to come back to the circle, and sort of said, okay, let's get together and record some songs. And then it turned into, hey, we have a spot coming up in the Traveling Wilburys. Maybe we should ask Del to join the Traveling Wilburys. But sadly, Del committed suicide, and that didn't happen.
This week in 1990. Brian Allison joins us every Monday morning at this time for a look back at this week in music history. Don't forget, he operates a Facebook page by the same name, This Week in Music History, and we'll get more tidbits this morning, including why we started the show with Bon Jovi and which member of the Rolling Stones had their house raided on This Week in Music History and why. That's still to come with Brian Allison, our musicologist, this morning on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Every Monday morning, just after the 11 a.m. news, musicologist Brian Allison joins us to take a look back at This Week in Music History. And Brian, it wouldn't be a look back at This Week in Music History if the Beatles didn't come up some way, somehow. I mean, you can't be the most influential band in the history of music, except maybe till Tay-Tay came along. I don't know, but without getting a mention on a weekly basis. This week in 1963 for the Beatles.
Well, I mean, if you look at the Beatles' calendar of events, I mean, literally every day of the year there's an event of some significance. That's how prolific they were, for sure. Yeah, so February 11th, 63, the Beatles recorded the debut album, Please Please Me, and that album was recorded in one marathon day. They recorded 10 songs for their debut album, plus 4 additional tracks, including their next 2 singles. Before wrapping up at 10:45 p.m., they recorded their famous version of the Isley Brothers' Twist and Shout. That was a favorite of their live set, and that was intentional because they needed to leave that vocal performance to the very end of the day because it literally would shred John Lennon's voice. He was giving her pretty good when he was singing that song. So, his first and only take of the song was the one that was chosen for inclusion on the album. So, and it would go on to sell 3 million copies worldwide. Not bad for a debut, for sure. Would usher in the era of Beatlemania. Some interesting trivia on it, that iconic cover photo of the Beatles taken in the stairwell of EMI House in London. They came back and retook that photo 6 years later in 1969 for the cover of the 1962 to 66 greatest hits package known as the Red Album. So on the front of it, you've got the original photo of the Beatles looking over that railing on the apartment, and then flip to the back and you've got them 6 years older, looking a little dour and a little older. Same location. Very cool effect, though.
You know, and having had the opportunity to visit Apple Music Studios, it's just like, this is the golden age, isn't it? Just thinking of these photographs and all that music meant at the time, it really was a golden age.
And think of how good and how rehearsed your band needs to be to go into the, this is a professional recording studio. You're noobs, so they had never been in a studio before. You'll go in the morning and you lay down all these tracks. And there's no track recording in these days, Mike. This is live off the floor. You have to play the song completely through. Nobody makes a mistake. Nobody makes a flub perfectly and get it captured on tape. And they did that for all of these songs, like 10 songs on the album and 4 additional tracks. So 14 songs in 12 hours. That's pretty impressive work.
Certainly is. Okay, why did we use Bon Jovi to start the segment today, Brian?
Again, because it's awesome.
Great answer, still fitting.
1987. So yeah, this is when Bon Jovi started a 4-week run at number 1 on the U.S. singles charts with Livin' on a Prayer. This was their second U.S. number 1 from the album Slippery When Wet, and it also hit number 1 in Canada, was a number 4 hit in the UK, and it pretty much launched them to international stardom. I mean, Slippery When Wet was sort of the pinnacle of the Bon Jovi era for the 80s, for sure. Trivia on that song, the song was co-written by Desmond Child, and Desmond had written songs for all kinds of artists. He wrote for Aerosmith, he wrote for Kiss, many, many others. He was kind of that guy that they brought in, okay, we need a really catchy hit single. Got any ideas? And Desmond Child would come up with stuff. John Bon Jovi did not like the original recording of the song. And there's an original recording of it on a hidden track on this takeaway album called 100 Million Bon Jovi Fans Can't Be Wrong. But it was lead guitarist Richie Zambora who said, you know what, this is a good song. Let's work it. Let's rework it. They put in a new bass line that was provided by Alec John Such, and it went on, to be such a great hit. In later years, John, I think there's a great documentary out right now about Bon Jovi that chronicles John's struggle in recent years with his voice. And he's taken to singing Living on a Prayer as an acoustic song now in a lower key so that he can manage some of those higher notes.
Understandable. I mean, we all get older, and that was a tough song for sure from its debut in '87.
He really did have quite a vocal range in his heyday. But yeah, you're right. I mean, as we get older, the vocal range goes away, and you can't do the things that you did in your 20s when you're well into your 60s, and that's just the way it is. But it's great that he's still including it as an acoustic version in their set.
I still have a difficult time believing that the Rolling Stones are as old as they are, into their 70s now and still doing what they do. But we go back to this week in 1967 for a story about a raid on Keith Richards' house.
Oh, my God, yeah. So that was sort of a trend in 1967. So there was this officer, Sergeant Norman Pilcher, his name was, and he sort of had it in for pop stars. He was going to make a name for himself by raiding a bunch of pop stars' homes. And, of course, there was the whole marijuana fear back then, especially in the UK. So it was on February 12th, 67, that 15 police officers raided Redlands, which was the West Sussex home of Rolling Stone Keith Richards. And he was having a weekend party, and the police were armed with a warrant issued under the Dangerous Drugs Act, which took away, and they came in and raided the house and took away a number of substances for forensic testing. Word has it, I could not get confirmation on this, but there are stories that say that George and Patty Harrison were at the house for the weekend, but the police waited for them to leave because they didn't want to raid the house and bust the holder of an MBE. Remember, the Beatles had been presented with the MBE, member of British Empire, in recent months. So subsequently, Keith Richards was charged with, quote-unquote, permitting cannabis to be smoked on his premises.
You imagine that today?
No.
Come on.
Yeah. And bandmate Keith Richards, who was also present, was charged with possession of amphetamines. So Keith had to go to court. He was subsequently found guilty in June 67 and sentenced to 1 year in prison for his conviction. But it was overturned on appeals in July, and he was released on bail after serving just one night in jail. So, I mean, it didn't really do a whole lot to stop the Rolling Stones. But interestingly enough, Sergeant Pilcher went on to raid the homes of Donovan. He raided the home of John and Yoko. He did end up raiding George Harrison's home and finding some drugs. But then, in 1973, he was convicted of planting evidence in drug raids and was sentenced to 4 years in prison himself. So, karma.
Karma indeed. I love these trips down memory lane with you every week, Brian. Thanks for this one. Appreciate it.
You bet. See you next week, Mike.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Brian Allison is a musicologist who joins us Monday mornings, 11 a.m. for a look back at this week in music history. If you just can't get enough, don't forget the Facebook page of the same name. This Week in Music History, Brian operates that as well, and he joins us weekly on the show. Speaking of music, our Friday All Request theme this week. I told you last week, I think we kind of knew where we were headed because we're headed into Valentine's Day, but I've added a twist, okay? So yes, this Friday's theme is love songs, but it's Black History Month. So they will be love songs by Black artists, please, and thank you. Put those two things together, a Black artist and a love song, and make your request via email to me or by phone call to Jen. However you do it, we are more than happy. We've already begun taking your requests for this week's All Request Friday. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Has anybody heard from Crazy Dave? Has anybody heard from Crazy Dave? Has anybody heard from Crazy Dave? Now that cat couldn't spell to win a bet, but he carried this battered notebook full of his poetry. More soul per square word than the Lord's Prayer. Here's the kind of guy that called a spade a shovel, and a violin a fiddle, and a lady ma'am. And I don't even know why I think of him now. Maybe because he never told me a lie he'd have to apologize for later. Because he'd speak to a guy straight, eyeball to bloodshot eyeball, like he'd never even had a secret.
Let me just check something here, David. What happened? It wasn't. Okay, now we need David's mic turned on, please.
Yeah, what happened?
Okay, so it wasn't just me?
Oh, no.
I wasn't the only one that heard that? I'm not crazy?
It was like Alvin and the Chipmunks doing Scott Wicken.
I have no idea what's going on. There's something in that room over there today, David. There's a whole case of the Mondays going on. Although Jen did bring candy, so she's one up on Justine.
What kind of candy, and is that the issue?
Is the candy the issue?
Yeah.
Oh, is she on too much candy?
Is
Sugar
there
high?
a funky candy?
No, it wasn't a funky. It was not an edible. I mean, it was edible, but it was just a candy.
Are you sure?
I think so. Well, I wasn't playing that sound.
How are your extremities? Like,
I can't feel my face.
And it turns out you and I were the only ones who heard that.
Yes, exactly. The listeners are going, what are they talking about right now? We're talking about the introduction to Drewe's Views with David Drewe. Owner, negotiating change, government relations, stakeholder engagement strategies, and of course, a lengthy political history, having been a Conservative Party staffer with our former MP for Kitchener-Conestoga. Let's begin. I mean, I think you do this to me. Sometimes I think you're just trolling me. Canada Post, come on.
And I have a lot of the same frustrations you do about Canada Post, and it's a nice little challenge that reflects our 21st century era of we have this service that is so essential, an absolute lifeline to an incredibly small portion of Canadians. And for the rest of us, it's like a what? Is it really? But you can't deny the fact that it is the lifeline for a lot of communities. Without Canada Post, there's no groceries. But in downtown Toronto, it's an entirely different reality where Amazon can deliver same day. So yeah, another $1 billion. And I say another billion because the federal government at the beginning of last year had loaned Canada Post $1 billion at that point that was supposed to get them to the end of this fiscal year, but that money kind of burned out in November. So yeah, another $1.01 billion is being fronted to Canada Post from the federal government on the pretext that it will at some point be repaid. But, that requires Canada Post not just breaking even at some point, but actually making money. So, I think this is one of those things we can call a white lie that's kind of forgivable. The government's like, yeah. It's like when your dad gives you that $10. It's like, yeah, you're going to pay me back by mowing the lawn and doing a good job this time, right? Yeah, Dad.
I just don't know why we can't strip it down to the bare bones and rebuild it. Like, I don't understand what's standing in the way of that.
And I am getting into this idea of the postal bank, and I'm not getting into the idea as a way to save Canada Post, but you've got to admit that Canada Post is kind of unique in that it has a physical presence in a lot of communities where there's not much of another government presence. They have the capacity for moving materials and infrastructure, and maybe we don't need Canada Post, but maybe that infrastructure can serve the value to the people who actually need that value and get out of the way of innovation in some other areas and still remain profitable by finding other ways to utilize this amazing distribution infrastructure. Like, you're saying tear it down, and I'm kind of going with you with let's reimagine. Because it's tearing it down just sounds to me like you're throwing away what's there and rebuilding from scratch. And I'm looking at this going, I understand all of these arguments people make about we need to make better use of this infrastructure. And I go, postal banking, it just sounds like you're trying to put lipstick on a pig sort of thing. But the idea that these physical presences could deliver more services than just postage, maybe you could co-locate Service Ontario with Canada Post instead of, in a Business Depot or wherever Doug Ford sent them.
I'll give you that. And so when I say, tear it down, I mean, we just have to reimagine it for the modern era, right? And so you're onto something there.
The other side of it, though, is it doesn't matter how much you tear down. You've still got the legacy pensions that are going to be owed.
Yeah.
So, we have to be realistic about we're not going to send those people away penniless. We are going to treat them well, and that is going to limit our options in terms of how much savings we get.
All right.
Yesterday's problems coming to us today.
Yes, they are. How do I get a legacy pension, just out of curiosity?
Get into the mush sector.
Okay, I'll get into the mush sector. I really enjoyed the past week or so federally. There was a great picture on the front page of the Globe and Mail one day last week of Jean Chrétien and Stephen Harper shaking hands, the Canadian flag behind them. It could not have been more poignant. And it just seems to me, David, that it was quite the week for Stephen Harper, because I recall when he left office in 2014, and he was not exactly the most popular political figure. But it seems that time heals all wounds, including political ones.
What I'm finding most amazing is the media treatment of him. And I'm going to name names. The Toronto Star. All of a sudden, Stephen Harper was like this wise man of politics that they at the time said had a secret agenda to ruin Canadian democracy and impose evangelical values on the country. Now we have Pierre Poilievre. Oh dear, Stephen Harper is so great, according to the media. Just like Stephen Harper all of a sudden made Brian Mulroney really socially acceptable for a while there. This is the tradition with the media. As soon as the Conservatives retired, all of a sudden they get a fair shake from places like the Toronto Star. So we come not to bury Stephen Harper, but to praise him. It was that was really what jumped out at me. The idea. And yes, Mark Carney and Stephen Harper got along great, but let's not forget the Jean Chrétien moments as well. Those two sitting there talking, getting along, throwing jokes at each other that were just so pro-Canada in every sense of the word. It was almost like a little bit of one-upmanship as to who loved Canada more. And they're praising this as a guy who's always loved Canada, but which election was it where the reporter actually asked Stephen Harper, "Do you love Canada?" And Harper just looked at the guy like a blithering idiot and didn't have an answer ready. You should have just said, well, yeah, and slapped the guy. But it was such a dumb question that he didn't really have a funnel, it just came out of so nowhere. He had no answer for it. And now it's like legendary, his love for Canada, and it's unquestionable. And you're the outlet who was asking at the time whether he even loved the country. Obviously, you're jerks. You're hypocrites. Here's a guy who's an elder statesman, and all of a sudden you want to use him to beat up on Pierre Poilievre. That's really what this is about.
Okay, speaking of ghosts of political past, I must have missed it, but you did not like, clearly, based on your notes, what Stéphane Dion had to say. I will never forget watching that Liberal leadership convention and Stéphane Dion coming up with those
Do you think it's easy to make priorities?
It's unbelievable. Anyway.
Yeah, he... I can't really blame him. I'm up here. You're asking me what I think, and I'm happy to say whatever dumb stuff comes through my head into a microphone. And that's kind of what happened to Stéphane Dion last week, because Rosie Barton started asking him about Alberta separatism. Now, I have no idea what the Alberta viewership for Rosie Barton Live is in Alberta, but I'm willing to bet that anything Stéphane Dion says will be clipped and sent to all the separatists in Alberta. Because if there's one thing they really appreciate, it's a Laurentian consensus Canadian with a French accent who was relevant a decade ago or maybe more, telling them what the rules of the game are going to be going forward. Respect to Stéphane Dion, props for everything he's accomplished, but that doesn't mean you're a helpful voice in the mix. You got to remember here, the audience is the Albertans. The rest of Canada, it doesn't matter what you think about it. It's the Albertans who are going to get cheesed off because they feel like you are closing the doors already, and what the heck do you know about them? It's a no-win situation. I kind of can't blame him for answering a question that he was asked, but it was not helpful at all.
You just need a better answer.
It was, well, the one thing about Stéphane Dion most of the time is he's too naive to put a spin on anything effectively. He generally does give honest answers, and that's how that's why he lost. But that's just it. Like this is something that requires diplomacy as much as constitutional theory. And going in there with the Supreme Court judgment in your back pocket, explaining that this is the rules of how it's going to go. At the moment that people are debating whether or not to sign a petition asking for a referendum, it's not about who started the fire. It's like, you've got all these people standing around the fire arguing around who started it. In the meantime, they're all holding like gas cans pouring on it. It's like, I didn't start this.
Who was the guy that played Kingmaker at that convention that allowed Dion to come up?
Gerard Kennedy.
I thought it was Gerard Kennedy, Toronto area guy.
Yeah.
And then he went out to Manitoba, I think. Anyway, whatever. But Gerard Kennedy, and whatever happened to Gerard Kennedy? Be nice or not.
Well, I'm also thinking that was the one where Joe Volpe had a whole legion of donors under the age of 15 who gave the maximum allowable
Oh my gosh, I
donation.
remember that.
That's it. But yeah, the idea was you're going to get Stéphane Dion in there. He's not going to win, and then you'll have the good shot at next time. But
oh, you liberals. Does it say where Gerard Kennedy is now? Oh, he is a food bank executive now, still in Toronto.
Still in Toronto.
Forget my Manitoba
You were mixing him up with Glenn Murray.
Thank you. I certainly
the former
was.
mayor of Winnipeg, who then was in Dalton McGuinty's cabinet and then ran for the Green Party leadership.
Okay, whatever you do, don't ever mention Dalton McGuinty's name in the studio again. David Drewe joins us Monday mornings at 11:30 to share Drewe's views. Say it ain't so. But did Doug Ford say to Mark Carney, hey, Mark, I know a thing or two about snap elections. We'll talk about it with David Drewe on Drewe's Views as we continue this morning on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Monday mornings at this time, you will always find in studio with me, David Drewe. He is the owner, founder of Negotiating Change, government relations and stakeholder engagement strategies. When you need support for that, David Drewe is your man. He also spent some time working for former Kitchener-Conestoga MP Harold Albrecht. Let's talk politics, David, provincially. And you point to a politician that you had never heard of who is now making you question your understanding of the political map. What do you mean by this?
I don't even know how to say her name because I'd literally never heard of her.
It's funny because I had not either. So I can tell you because I tried to learn. It's Dolly Begum, and she was the deputy leader of the Ontario NDP.
Yeah, that's, apparently it gets you a job in the Liberal Party as a candidate. But that's just it. We had a provincial NDP deputy leader crossing the floor and jumping up to run federally was it Christopher Freeland's? No, Bill Blair's.
Bill Blair, the new high commissioner.
Seat.
Yes.
And as a result, her seat is opening up provincially, and you've got Nate Erskine-Smith, who is going to jump on the opportunity to run in that riding, which is adjacent to the riding he currently represents federally.
Right.
And there's just a whole lot of mind-blowing for me in this because I have been very upfront with you all along in saying that, no, Mark Carney's not a progressive conservative. Mark Carney is a conservative. Mark Carney and Stephen Harper are so twined in terms of big picture pragmatism policy that I have everything. I'm looking at Mark Carney and I'm like, I could picture Stephen Harper doing that. Which is why I find it so incredible that a member of the NDP would find this appealing to join up with. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around what is it that somebody who could have run under a Mart Stiles platform finds so appealing in this Liberal government of Mark Carney. And I really have no idea what it was. Sitting on the right side of the government bench and, having a voice in how decisions are made as opposed to how they're criticized, that could be quite appealing. the idea of having to go to Ottawa 4 days a week instead of living at home with your family and going through public transit commute, that appeals to some people. But I have no clue. And the statements she gave really gave me no clue. Marit Stiles gave her as polite a thank you, goodbye. Of course it hurts, she said. But, in terms of goodbyes to somebody who's jumping to a different party, that's darn nice. That's darn friendly. That generally goes into the backstabbing sort of territory, but it wasn't. And then Nate Erskine-Smith thinking that this relatively safe NDP riding, he's going to be able to flip to the provincial Liberals. That's ambitious. Like, there's so much here where I'm like, I am really missing something. What is the appeal of this government that is pro-pipeline, killed the carbon tax, killed the capital gains tax increases to a member of the NDP?
So, first of all, I think Nate Erskine-Smith has a pretty good chance here because he's a pretty good brand, and there might be enough disaffected progressive voters with Dolly Begum abandoning them for the federal Liberals/Conservatives that he can pick up some of that vote. But more to your question, I'm throwing it out there for you. But I'll tell you, this has increased my cynicism tenfold, and I was already pretty damned cynical. But Dolly Begum is leaving because she wants to be, as you alluded to, I would think, part of the winning team. Simple as that. And she sees the Liberals sitting in government right now and believes that she can be a part of that winning team for however long it lasts in Ottawa.
I don't like the way you phrased that. I agree with everything you're saying, though. But being on the winning team is not just about being on the winning team. It's about affecting change. And so, yeah, you could say it's about being on the winning team, or you could say she has an issue that she feels she's going to be able to see addressed by being a member of the government at that level.
No, I don't think so. I think she just wants to be on the winning team.
I have to be charitable with her, though, because she hasn't come out and identified what that issue is.
She won't.
Well, and that's just it. Like, this is one of those things. It's like, who shot JR? Like, we need to know these things. And I'm sorry. Like, I grew up in Sudbury in a largely NDP family.
You sure did.
And I got to say, though, the Sudbury NDPs are different because they're the old school. They're the labor-based NDP. But, oh my gosh, if Jamie West, the MPP for Sudbury, NDP, was to join and run for the Federals liberally, they'd pretty much be calling him a scab in Sudbury. And no, that is an ugly word.
I know. And I totally understand it.
But that's just it. So when you're saying, maybe there'll be some disaffected who will vote for him, I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of people who want to punish her.
Interesting. Okay. And yeah, I'll just leave it there because we came out of the commercial break. You're like, oh, we have lots of time. I said, it's going to go faster than you think. And I've used up most of it. 75 seconds on Carney and Ford and their little tete-a-tete.
Wasn't that cute?
So cute. They're adorable together.
Was it? I don't have the physical
I think it's
paper.
Today's. Yeah.
Was it above the fold? Was it? Because
yes.
Yeah, it's definitely prominent on the Globe website.
Yeah. Ford floated idea of snap federal election in private talks with Carney.
And you start going through, and it's almost like, they have these unnamed sources who are willing to say this part, these unnamed sources who are willing to say this part, and I'm just like, is this mischief? Is this just somebody in Ford's staff who's like, I'm tired of them asking us about our snap election. Yeah, so the Premier and the Prime Minister the Premier was talking to the Prime Minister about it. Like, is it just a way to get people talking about the Prime Minister's snap election?
Shiny object.
Well, no, but also, if you're going to talk about the Prime Minister calling a snap election, well, you've got to remember that you might come up for Ford. And, if you want to be saying, well, that Mark Carney needs a mandate, you got to be prepared to say the same thing about Doug Ford if he does it. So there's this advantage to Doug Ford getting people talking about it in the Mark Carney context. Just because the media will always assume the worst about him, but Mark Carney still has a halo because he's still in his honeymoon period. So God bless him. How's that for 75 seconds?
You nailed it. You nailed it almost to the exact second. Love these chats. We'll see you again next week.
Next week, sir.
David Drewe joins us. No, next week's Family Day. The week after that. Take the day off.
What kind of a stupid made-up holiday is that?
Don't say his name. Do not say his name, who brought it into the province.
What about Love Day?
Okay, let's make it Love Day. David Drewe joins us Monday mornings at 11:30. Drew's Views. Rant or Rave is next on The Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yaggity yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight, or you don't go out Friday night.
Don't talk back.
Your daily Talkback Hour begins right now. And on Mondays, we reserve the hour for your rants and or raves. You rant because you're upset about something. You rave because, for whatever reason, you're loving this frigid February. I don't know. Maybe you really liked that super bore yesterday. Completely up to you. Rant or rave at 519-570 2545 star 570 or 1-800-570-5715. Right to the phones we go, and we will begin with Sean. Good afternoon, Sean.
Good afternoon, Mike. I must say your little thing on the Austrian cows was quite punishing. You know what I mean?
You were paying attention, sir. You passed the test. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, I was just listening to your previous segment. Yeah, I sort of feel like the Conservatives have broken Canadian politics. They've moved so far to the right compared, for Canada, that they've left a huge hole in the middle. And as you know, nature abhors a vacuum. That's sort of sucking all the other parties more towards the right of the spectrum. And I'm thinking, that's why Mark Carney, get along with Stephen Harper and all that. It's just sort of upset everything. I'm thinking we're sort of unsettled right now with what's happening with the Conservatives, and it's spreading to the other parties, quite honestly.
It's an interesting way to look at it, Sean. I don't know that I necessarily see it that way. First, though, if you'll allow me, the punishing story about the Austrian cows from earlier today. It was Austrian researchers who have the first documented evidence of cows using tools. This is not made up, just for the record. And so when sharing the story, I put in a number of bovine-related puns, you see. Every now and again, it shows up on the show. I haven't got a specific place for it, but I like to keep these things handy. I call them the Farwell Reports, and you'll get some offbeat news from them, including a story like cows using tools, and then I'll use that as an opportunity to make some really terrible puns. And sometimes, I guess, they land, and they landed with Sean. What I would say more than anything, I don't disagree that this current iteration of the Conservative Party, or at least this current Conservative leader, is further right than Stephen Harper was, without question. And is that pulling more parties to the right? I don't know. I see Mark Carney as more centrist than right. Right of center, sure, but certainly still close enough to the center to be considered centrist. And I just wonder if what we're seeing here is a shifting of our sentiments, sensibilities, spaces on the political spectrum, right? Today's liberal is yesterday's conservative. And so if that means today's conservative is further right than yesterday's conservative, that's fine. And look, there's plenty of support for Pierre Poilievre and his brand of politics. 87% support within the party, at least those who voted anyway. So there's that. And then let's not forget, please let's not forget, Jagmeet Singh and the federal NDP. I might lump Mart Stiles into it. Like, you want to talk left of the political center. I certainly don't see them being dragged to the right in Sean's words. So I don't know. That's just my take on it. But hey, always happy to hear yours and your thoughts on how things are shaping up. But I certainly feel as though today's liberal, at least federally, is much more alike yesterday's conservative federally. Today's liberal provincially is non-existent, at least from where I'm sitting. Dave from Cambridge is next on Rant or Rave. Good afternoon, Dave.
Good afternoon, Mike. I want to briefly comment on your episode on the Olympics and your escapism dream of participating in the luge event.
Okay.
How quickly we forget. On February 12th, in Vancouver, during a training run on the luge event, I believe it was a skeleton, and an athlete was killed in Vancouver. So I just thought that I'd throw that out to you on your brief escapism dreaming about participating in the luge event.
All right. Just remember, Dave, I never said it would be easy. It just looks like a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah, but I'm sure that athlete thought it was a lot of fun, and he was killed, if you remember. And anyway, have a great day, and I'm enjoying the Olympics, and thumbs up to all the athletes.
All right. Dave, thanks for the call. I hope you're enjoying the Olympics as well. We had a nice chat about them earlier. They were basically on 24/7 in the Farwell household this weekend, and I get a big kick out of it. It's funny because as they approach, like, these are sports outside of hockey, right, that I would never usually watch. I watch some curling. Depends on where the tournament is or how big it is, but hardly any. And I used to watch a lot more. Anyway, these are sports that I don't think any of us would ever pay attention to at any other time. And all of a sudden, national pride is on the line. Or really, it's just for me, and I'll say again what I said earlier, it's the pursuit of absolute excellence that I am utterly enthralled by. I see these athletes on the podium, whether they're Canadian or not, and I just think they proved themselves to be one of the top 3 in the world. Even if it's just for that moment because somebody else had an off race or whatever. But I find that incredible. I really do. And I love every bit of that. And of course, when the hockey games roll around, you can be sure I am all Canada all the way, and I will be watching every one of those games. Team Canada's women, by the way, play this afternoon against Czechia, 3 o'clock our time. I love this email from Sean to Mike at 570news.com. I can think of 70 billion reasons Mark Carney is not a centrist liberal. His fiscal policy is nothing like Stephen Harper's. Sean, you got me on that one for sure. And the 70 billion, of course, refers to our deficit. I have not enjoyed the fiscal policies to date. I liked what was talked about, but I don't think that any of it is moving in the right direction yet. One of the things I liked that was talked about is kind of right-sizing our federal civil service. And instead of taking a scythe to it, we've basically taken a scalpel, at least for now. Anyway, point to you, Sean. You are absolutely right. Fiscally, there is very little comparison between the two. Touche. Back to the phones on Rant or Rave. Mark is next. Afternoon, Mark.
Afternoon, Mike. I guess a small rant, Mike, for you today.
Yeah.
I went out on Saturday to buy a pair of gently used winter boots from Value Village. And I got there, and the place is all boarded up, and they're closed. What happened there, Mike?
You must have gone to the Value Village at Eastwood Square, Ottawa and Weber area, right?
Yeah, Ottawa.
Yeah. It's been closed for a while, Mark. What happened there? I'm guessing it just wasn't a viable enough business anymore. I don't know.
Okay, do you know what's going there next, Mike?
I haven't the foggiest, Mark. I could try to find out for you, though.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Okay, you're welcome, Mark. Appreciate the call. Isn't it funny how the retail landscape forever changes, right? We did a Throwback Thursday with the City of Waterloo Museum last week. And we do that on the first Thursday of every month, by the way, at 11 a.m. And Jen Huber, who joins us from the City of Waterloo Museum, she's fantastic with what she brings to the show. We did Olympics this week, or last week when she was on the show, because obviously the Olympics were about to begin, and the history of Olympics and Olympic wear right here in the region. And we talk about these, former retailers at these different locations and you think about what's there now, but then you think back on what had been there. So what ultimately goes where the Value Village was, I don't know. And I'm gosh darn it. There was something in there before Value Village. I know the spot very well, and I'm trying to remember what it was before it became a Value Village. But this is what happens, right? I always look at that giant tiger on Margaret Avenue, pretty much across from the entrance to Bright Up Park. I'm pretty sure it's still a giant tiger. I haven't been that way in a little bit, but that used to be a Dutch boy when I was a kid. And for whatever reason, that stands out. We kind of lived over in that ish neighborhood, and we drive there for groceries sometimes. And then to see it be something different, even all these years later, I'm like, that used to be a Dutch boy. Now it's a giant tiger. And the retail landscape continues to change. Quick break. Back with more of your calls on Rant or Rave as we continue on the Mike Farwell Show this afternoon, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Every day from noon until 1, we open the phone lines for the Talkback Hour. On Mondays, it's for your rants and or raves. Quickly to an email from Sandy to Mike at 570news.com. Mark, this is for you. The Value Village from Eastwood Square at Weber in Ottawa has moved to Laurentian Plaza, Ottawa, and Strasbourg. It's beside the Zares, says Sandy via email. So now you know what happened to it, Mark. Maybe they needed a bigger location. Let's get back to the phones. Rant or rave to Dylan. Good afternoon, Dylan.
Good afternoon. The emailer beat me to the punch. Yeah, the Value Village it's actually in the Zares building itself.
In the Zares.
They used to have a Joe Fresh on the left-hand side.
Yep.
That's where the Value Village is now. The giant tiger over on Margaret, that Dutch boy used to have a basement.
Come on. I don't remember the basement. I don't think I do.
Yeah, you used to go down into the basement in that Dutch boy. Since Giant Tiger, which is still there, has taken over, the basement is not open to the public anymore. But I remember going down in the basement there. I always thought that was cool.
Now maybe it's still foggy though, so I can't be sure. But that's very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, Dylan, and I'm sorry I stole your thunder by reading the email first, but I lost track of the Value Village and its relocation to Ottawa and Strasbourg. So Dylan is just a font of local retail information. A basement at that old Dutch boy. I'm trying. Anyway, we'll continue ranting and or raving because DJ is next. DJ, a first-time caller to this show?
Hey, Mike. Hi, Farwell. I just wanted to say the same thing, but your email and Dylan beat me to the punch as well.
Come on. You knew the Value Village relocation to Ottawa and Strasbourg.
Yes, the better half's a big thrifter, so yeah, I'm well informed.
Okay, well, hey, thanks for letting us know about that. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I just didn't want to hang up. You have yourself a great day.
Thanks, you too. And thanks for hanging around and not hanging up and being a first-time caller to the show, whether it's for a piece of information that I didn't know, which there are lots of, so there's a great reason to always call in and say, hey, Farwell, you're wrong. This is the actual answer. I completely lost track of the old double V. Tom is next on Rant or Rave. Good afternoon, Tom.
Yeah, hi, Mike. I was wondering, were you watching the Super Bowl last night?
I went back and forth. I watched very little. I had no interest in the game going in, and every time I flipped over, somebody was kicking a field goal. It didn't excite me much.
Yeah, that's right. Four of them in a row.
Yeah, kind of boring.
Apparently, maybe because of the Bad Bunny, but they said more than 4 million people watched it than previous times. So I don't know.
4 million more people watched the halftime show?
Well, the whole Super Bowl.
Oh, the whole Super Bowl. Okay, I hadn't heard that.
Okay. I don't know. Like, I think we're running out of good musicians. We don't have any big bands anymore. But maybe the solution is to get 2, 3 good ones. That doesn't have to be just one guy doing the halftime. Get 3, 4. I'm surprised they didn't bring anybody from the country music.
Yeah, you know what?
They had a good show the last time.
It's not a bad idea. I mean, the Super Bowl halftime show goes on long enough. Bring on a bunch of different artists.
Yeah, that's the best because and you got to get that Jay-Z out of there. Like, he's the guy that's choreographing every year for the last few years, and it's the same thing. I mean, I don't mind if he does, but it's the same thing. A bunch of them try to dance and they jump up and down, and that's basically it. I don't know.
All right, Tom. Well, I appreciate the call. Obviously not a halftime show that was geared towards you and I by way of audience. I did not know Bad Bunny before he was named the Super Bowl halftime performer. I didn't watch the halftime show last night. It's not my cup of tea. As Tom says, like, why not get? Because certainly there's enough time they give to the Super Bowl halftime show. Why don't you bring in a modern, if you will, act and maybe a rock act and a country act and let them all play, 7 minutes or something like that? Listen, I ain't in charge, but I will acknowledge that the music scene has passed me by. I don't even try to keep up. There's not much that I care for other than, and I've said this many times before, I'm stuck in the 1970s when it comes to music. I'll dabble in the 80s, but 70s rock is my wheelhouse, and I don't think they make it like they used to, but who am I to say? Clearly, Big Bunny is a massive, massive artist. Kids just want something they can dance to, and that's what he gives them, and that's perfectly okay with me. It doesn't have to be my cup of tea. Jason is also with us on Rant or Rave this afternoon. Hello, Jason.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. I heard your show this morning, and you're looking for people to join your Farwell force. And I think you said you could take any number. So if that's still the case, I'd like to be the -1.
The -1? Now, why would you want to be a -1, Jason?
Well, it seems like I have a lot of complaints coming up, so I'll stick it with the rant. And my biggest rant is that Homer Watson and Block Line roundabout, they've tried everything there, slowing it down to 50. And I've got an idea for the city with all the unused photo cameras or speed cameras. They could set those up around that intersection and watch cars go into low orbit as they go around over those speed bumps now.
Oh, yes, of course. The one down by St. Mary's High School. Those speed bumps are something else, aren't they?
Yeah, that's the one. I think they should just go back. If they're going to put it down to basically you can't go over that thing more than 20 kilometers an hour or you're going to bottom out.
Yep.
And they should just go back to regular stoplights, take it all out, admit that it was a mistake, and drop the speed limit to, 30, I guess, or 50, whatever it is.
It's not a bad idea. And listen, you're talking my language when you say, can we just please go back to signalized intersections? I understand the rationale for roundabouts, but I think these are the goofiest things. And we've gone roundabout crazy in this province. I'm sure you've been to other places and you're like, what? A roundabout here now too?
Yeah, exactly. I think they got their place, but I don't think they got their place where there's a high amount of pedestrian traffic.
All right. Well, Jason, I appreciate the call. Good to hear from you today.
Thanks.
Thanks very much. Maybe they do. I don't know. The very first time roundabouts, that is, have their place, the very first time I ever used one, I was in Buffalo. And I was in Buffalo on my own as a younger adult for the first time, trying to find my way around. I was actually there for work. They sent me there for the World Junior Hockey Championship gold medal game about 15 years ago or so. And so I was on my own and following the map in my car. I wasn't using GPS or anything, and it had to get to this roundabout, and there were lots of spokes on it to get off and do that. To me seemed, I don't know, more like a roundabout. Ours are traffic circles, to say the very least. Heck, we were talking about Margaret Avenue and that giant tiger. That's not too far from the real itty-bitty, teeny-weeny thing at the intersection corner, if you will, the T intersection of Union and Margaret. And I have seen people on Margaret drive straight over the median of that traffic circle because it's so tiny. And I know the theory with roundabouts is naturally that vehicle traffic slows down. So when there are collisions, and there are actually more collisions in roundabouts than there ever were at signalized intersections, but the collisions are of a lower severity because we're traveling slower. So that's the idea. I get it. But I struggle, and I'm sorry. This is just me. The light's red, you stop. The light's green, you go. And if we have reached a point in our lives that we can't follow those instructions, well then, shame on us. And this is what we get. This is why we can't have nice things. So we get roundabout after roundabout after roundabout. They've got a roundabout in Listowel, for crying out loud. It's Rant or Rave on the Mike Farwell Show, and we'll take more calls right after this on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. On Mondays, your Talkback Hour is for your rants and or raves. A rant is something you're upset about. A rave is something you're happy about. Let's get right back to the phones. Norma, Farwell's Force member number 31. It's been a minute since you've called in. Good afternoon.
It's been a bit. And I want my rave to go back to your Olympic segment. I was driving at the time you were talking about that. But my opinion, I mean, obviously these athletes, a podium finish is their ultimate goal. But they have sacrificed so much. Many of them, because of their training, are away from home and billeted out from where their training centers are. And they have given it their all. And whether they're the figure skating team that came fifth, or whether they're the men's speed skating that came 13th, that means he's still 13th in the world. And I give all my respect to the 206, 7 athletes that are there. They have sacrificed and given it their all for Canada. And my shout out goes to all of them, every single one of them.
All right, Norma, great to hear from you today. An excellent sentiment. It's a privilege or it's an accomplishment just making it onto an Olympic team and getting the chance to put on your nation's colors and try to prove that you're the best in the world. I still just get such a charge out of seeing the 3 on the podium, though, among the 3 best in the world. Preston Paul, Farwell's Force member number 45. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. Got a couple of raves. The first one, I think there should be an honorary gold medal to all the participants in the opening ceremonies who, when they showed J.D. Vance up on the screen, they booed hard. I just love that. And they scrolled back down to the Americans coming in, and they cheered. And when they went back to the J.D. Vance, they booed. That was just great. I love to see that.
I love it. It's like they do in London for OHL games. They put on the video board, a London fan, everybody cheers. They put on a Rangers fan, everybody boos. Go figure.
Yeah. And I just wanted just another rave just for all the Olympic participants. They're trying their best and just want to see them just do their best at whatever they are at and hope they have a good time.
Sounds great, Paul. Appreciate the call, buddy.
You have a good day, Mike.
You too. Bye-bye. That's our good friend Preston Paul, not to be confused with Paul from Preston, whose name came up over the weekend. We lost Paul from Preston a little bit ago, but his memory lives on here with this show and obviously in the community through various conversations. But a lot of Olympics love on the show today. I'm here for it. Love me some games. Phil in Stratford, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sport. It's Phil, number 81.
Farwell's Force, member number 81. A member in good standing, I might add.
And it will remain that way.
Thank you. Good.
You mentioned about the North Ward and Dutch Boy being where Giant Tiger is today on Margaret Ave.
Do you remember the basement in there that Dylan was talking about?
Very, very well.
Wow.
And I remember about 1968, 69, the place caught fire Christmas Day.
Oh, my gosh.
And in the basement was the hardware department, and all the paint cans were exploding. So they rebuilt it to what the structure is today. And the neighborhood guys on Sundays, when stores were closed Sundays, we had our neighborhood ball hockey tournaments in their parking lot.
Yes, I used to do the same thing. See, from one North Ward boy to the other. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's in your DNA.
It is. It absolutely is.
And then you mentioned the roundabout there on Margaret Ave and Union.
Well, whatever that is, but yes.
Well, the inset of that is interlocking brick. And my comprehension is that it was constructed that way on purpose. So when the fire trucks are coming from the old Guelph Street Hall, they would drive straight over it.
Well, I've seen vehicles do the same thing.
I do it too. And you're pretty brave. I see you're wearing a white top. So you're obviously not going to have any tomato sauce lunch, because if that was I'd be slopping myself with it.
There will be no pasta today, Phil. No pasta.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow.
Look forward to it, Phil. Take care.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye. That's funny. You know what Phil reminds me of? So many things. We both obviously have roots in the North Ward here in Kitchener. If you know, us North Warders. But the idea of getting pasta sauce on my white sweater, the very first time I met David Schooley, who you know very well. He is the patron saint of our broadcast booth at Kitchener Rangers games. It is the David Schooley broadcast booth. He's a great partner on this show, obviously. The co-owner of the KW Titans, involved with Waterloo Region Sports and Entertainment. It goes on and on. First time I met him was at a service club. I believe it was a Lions club. Shame on me. But the challenge that David put forward, he invited me to the club's spaghetti dinner. And I think I was the one that shot off my mouth, but it was a part of a fundraiser for Farwell for Hire. And I said, David, I'm going to show up in a white shirt and I'm not going to spill a drop of pasta sauce on me. And of course, I spilled a drop or more of pasta sauce on me, but David still made a very generous donation and a relationship was born. David was on the show last week and he told me he's putting the Farwell for Hire sticker on his first house already this year. He donates $1,000 from every house he sells during campaign time to our Farwell for Hire fundraising efforts in support of cystic fibrosis. Anyway, Phil just made me think of that when he mentioned the white sweater and stay away from the pasta. I will. Except that one time I didn't, and I still got a donation for Farwell for Hire. Bob is with us on Rant or Rave. Good afternoon, Bob.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I just turned the program on 20 minutes ago, and I don't know if this topic's has come up yet or not, but the Super Bowl halftime show. I guess I'm almost 70 years old. That program didn't appeal to me in the slightest.
It really wasn't supposed to, though, right? Like I'm 55 this year, and it didn't appeal to me either. But lots of people like Bad Bunny.
I don't know why it was. I don't know. I'm not Spanish. I don't speak it, but I think you got to be like Spanish or speak Spanish to like that.
Now, come on, Bob. Let me take you back to one of the very best movies ever made, Shawshank Redemption. Have you seen it?
Oh, yeah. I love it.
Well, there you go. And so Andy Dufresne gets some records sent to him when he was trying to build that library, and he plays one of those records over the loudspeaker so every inmate in that prison can hear it out in the yard within the prison walls. And Red, Morgan Freeman's character Red says, to this day, I don't know what that woman was singing, but it was the most beautiful whatever. You don't need to understand the words or the language to feel the music and be inspired by it.
Well, anyways, it just didn't appeal to me. I was wondering if anybody else had called about it.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of discussion about it, and I appreciate you calling in and sharing your thoughts. As I said before when we talked about it, and I will again now, I didn't even watch the halftime show because it had no appeal to me whatsoever. And I can't remember the last time there was a halftime show that held any appeal for me, to be honest with you, because again, I'm stuck in 1970 and I like my rock and roll. But that doesn't take away from the fact that Bad Bunny is an international superstar, not just a star. Millions upon millions of people love what this guy does. Do I like it? No. Is it my cup of tea? Absolutely not. But if it floats your boat, then I'm glad your boat was floating last night during halftime of the Super Bowl, because that's what that game was. Greg, Farwell's Force member number 38. Good afternoon.
Hey, Mike. I guess just because of the topics that have been talked about, now I got some thoughts. For a Super Bowl halftime show, it's like, I commented, there was somebody on Facebook, what do you think of it, da-da-da. And I said, okay, well, as talented as it might be in his own right, that's just not the time and place for it. You got to, you're almost dividing more people by doing something like that. And I said the best thing.
What are you? How are you dividing people?
Okay, well, basically, not hardly like one word of English kind of thing. Like, well, why at the Super Bowl did a big Spanish? Like, I'm not, cutting up anybody, but I'm just thinking like why something to such a specific audience as opposed to.
It's not, but it's how is that to a specific audience though? This is the thing. Like, you think all of Bad Bunny's fans are Hispanic?
I don't know what they are, but I'm just saying. Well, there, you turned it off. How about something that appeals?
I didn't even turn it on. I had no interest in it. But it's not because It's not because he speaks Spanish.
No. I'm just saying. Okay,
Greg, I encourage you strongly to listen to the exact words I just said to Bob and think back on that scene from Shawshank Redemption. It doesn't matter what they're singing. The music can still inspire and move you, and that's what Bad Bunny's music does for a lot of people.
Okay, but I think that was the wrong time and place for it.
Why?
Basically. Why?
He's a megastar. Why would the halftime show not be the place for a mega star?
Because it's watched worldwide, and they should try and get more diversity and a bit something for everybody. Like the last 12 years, whatever, you haven't been impressed with anything. Well, a lot of people think that way. So why not, put it to work? Like,
how are you gonna find an artist that appeals to even half of the 8 billion people on this planet? How are you going to do that?
Well, drop down to a tribute band who can play a country song that the whole world knows, a metal song.
Greg, I'm shocked by this from you. I am utterly shocked by this from you.
Why?
It's small-minded. That's why.
No, I'm just saying, because
just because it didn't appeal to you. Again,
no, there's all kinds that didn't appeal to.
Yes, I know, but there's all kinds that the Rolling Stones don't appeal to as well.
Right, and they're not going to make everyone happy, but that's what I'm saying.
So they didn't make everyone happy this time. So why are you railing on it?
Because I'm saying what they could do better is try and put something out there that covers a bit more satisfaction to more tangents of the world or whatever you want to call it.
I'm telling you, Greg, you could put Bad Bunny at Scotiabank Arena tomorrow night and the night after that and the night after that and the night after that. And he'll sell it out every night. How much bigger do you want an act to be?
I'm not talking about necessarily size. I'm talking about the appeal of what they're doing.
Well, that shows what the appeal is, though, because he'll sell out Scotiabank Arena 5 nights in a row. That's appeal.
Okay, but then again,
it just doesn't. It just doesn't appeal to you.
80s, are they all going to be part of it?
No, but that's why I don't know why you are just choosing to ignore all of the people that he does appeal to. It's just not your cup of tea, Greg. So what?
No, because the Super Bowl shouldn't say, here, let's appeal to just this.
Okay, let me ask you this. How many people in the world like football, American style?
I don't know what the head count is as to how many watched it.
Well, then, no, not how many watched it. I mean, how many actually like the sport? Why do we even have the Super Bowl? Because it doesn't appeal to everybody. I guarantee you in Europe, they like their version of football better than ours. So why would we play a Super Bowl and televise it around the world when so many people don't like it? Why would we do that?
Well, again, you have the choice of whether you want to.
So you could have watched the halftime show or not watched the halftime show. Greg, put down your shovel because you're digging deeper, buddy.
No, I'm just saying, get something that
you're not going to put down your shovel. You're going to keep picking. You're going for broke, aren't you?
Again, if they just got something with a bit of variety and have more than one band, and then therefore more people are not turning it off because right away it's like, yeah, not for me. See ya. Whereas if 5 different bands of 5 different genres get a song each, hey, that's a bit more like universal. But anyways.
Oh, okay. I get Greg has now put down his shovel. It doesn't have to be your cup of tea. As I said earlier, I can't remember the last time a halftime show was my cup of tea. It's not for us. It's for the audience that likes Bad Bunny. And I don't know, wasn't Lady Gaga there and Ricky Martin there? And I don't even remember last year's halftime show or the year before that. I'm always there for the football. And when my buddies used to throw Super Bowl parties, we had a good time at the parties. That's all. I don't care who you put on at halftime. I really don't. You could put Rush on at halftime, and I'll bet you I wouldn't watch the halftime show. Anyway, it's Rant or Rave on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is your Monday edition of Talkback, which means it's rant or rave. We'll go right back to the phones for Mary. Good afternoon, Mary.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mike with a bike. My goodness me, I didn't think you'd give that guy that much time about Bad Bunny. There's way too much time spent on Bad Bunny.
Well, when the bunny's bad, Mary, you got to talk about how bad Bunny is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you understand what I'm saying.
I do.
Yeah. Well, I was talking. My daughter's in surgery right now, but I was talking to her last evening, and she said, "I got to see Bad Bunny."
There you go.
We can't talk too much. But anyway, I wake up sometime in the morning. Well, thankfully, I wake up. And then I can't go back to sleep. My mind goes wild. And I think of crazy, crazy things. Well, anyway, this isn't that crazy, but you talked about the new service with the garbage. Did you ever think how many people lost jobs?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Did you, Mike?
Of course I did, Mary. Of course I did.
I know. Well, how's that being? How do you think those people feel?
Oh, my gosh, even worse than we do with those ugly bins in our driveway.
Well, I know. I don't know where, I've got a 2-car garage, and honest to Pete, only one car. But, my gosh, I don't know if people are going to put all this stuff.
You know what, Mary? They could be like my neighbor and just leave it out on their driveway. That's my favorite place to walk by in the neighborhood now. Bins lined up, the 2 new ones, 2 blue recycling bins, a garbage can, and on the other side of the driveway, 2 garbage bags. It's awesome. That's what we could all start doing now because that's where we're headed. Kyle, you're on Rant or Rave. Good afternoon.
I don't like Green Day.
Right. Was that last year? I don't it's so, I'm fascinated by this.
They play in the beginning of the show. I guess they're the opening band of the Super Bowl this year. I'm not a big Green Day fan. I'm not a punk fan or whatever you want to call that genre. So you know what I did? I muted it and I played my own background music until the football dropped.
That's funny.
Bad Bunny, I didn't understand what he was saying, but I thought he was pretty good. I mean, I don't know any of his songs or anything like that, but I thought they did a really good job. And the way they did I thought it was pretty cool. They had everything set with the grass and the way he was running around. And that couple actually got married during the Super Bowl. I didn't know that. I guess they were asking for Bad Bunny or something like that. And Bad Bunny invited them to the Super Bowl. So that couple actually got married. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing to see, the highlight of the night. So there you go. That's a little bit of a rave for me for the Super Bowl. Thought it was a boring game, but didn't mind the halftime show at all there, Mike. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate the call. It reminded me, sometimes I do watch it just for the spectacle. I'm big into performance, live performance, and how all of the elements come together. So maybe I should have checked it out just for that. But the game held zero interest for me either. So that was that. Andre, you're on Rant or Rave. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. I have a rave. And before that, I would like to say my favorite Super Bowl was 27 when Michael Jackson was there. To me, it was spectacular. But beside that, Mike, Friday, game day, we won 6-2, correct?
Correct.
And there was a person there that I could not even recognize it was her, Ellen Fishburne. She sounded so young, so happy, so young. I thought she sounded like she was 25, 30. That's how amazing happy she was. I was about Let's Talk, right?
That's right.
And oh my goodness, it's just unbelievable how I'm out of words. I just couldn't believe. And last thing, Mike, was there another game this weekend that I missed?
Yes, you missed the game on Saturday, apparently.
Okay, so what was that?
We lost 4-3 in Niagara.
That's why. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mike, and I can't wait for tomorrow.
All right, Andre. Well, you'll be excited to know that Helen Fishburne is going to be on the show tomorrow, the CEO of the Canadian Mental Health Association, Waterloo Wellington. She was also on our broadcast Friday night from the Kitchener Rangers game because it was the Talk Today game with the Kitchener Rangers, which is a program the CMHA runs through the Ontario Hockey League. Also on tomorrow's show, do you think you ought to put on a helmet when you go tobogganing? Because new research suggests that we probably should be doing that to protect against injury. And lots more on our Tuesday show, which will begin tomorrow morning at 9. I'll be here. I invite you to join me then. My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.